You have any openings?
I will let you know.
Okay. Fair enough.
I will be muting you very shortly.
Fine.
Okay.
I'll just keep my ears on.
Thank you.
I'll just keep my ears on.
Thank you. Welcome, 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 one and all. This is the Kennedy Effect for July 19, 2020. Special welcome to the Hot101.net family. You can listen to us on Hot101.net, the main website, or the Hot101.net app. You can get the Hot101.net app on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store for Android. And you can also get the Apple App Store. You can get the 101 Hot101.net on the TuneIn Radio app. Welcome to the show for July 19, 2020. Very glad that you're here. Very, very happy to have you here. A very interesting day here at the Kennedy residence, I have to be honest with you. We have had, I gotta tell you, I have talked to you, if you're a regular listener or a viewer of the show, you will know that I'm not afraid to let you in on my life, so to speak. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm a human being, just like you. I have bad things happen. I have normal life things happen. I have good days. I have bad days. I have happy moments. I have bad moments. And today has been quite the day. Among the things that have happened so far today, it is about 100 degrees here in the Lehigh Valley. I'm coming to you, of course, as I always do, from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of this Milky Way galaxy in this universe of ours. And it's about 100 degrees outside. And we had a brownout earlier today. If you don't know what I mean by a brownout, we had a power fluctuation. And you might think to yourself, oh, well, okay, that doesn't sound like a big deal. And, generally speaking, it wouldn't be a big deal. Except that my AC unit was running during this brownout. And I didn't think of anything of it at the time, except as I was sitting in my recliner, trying to calm myself. Because I have told you before, I've told my friends, my associates, my business partners, of people who know me well, know that I have been doing radio and TV since I was in high school. I'm 51 now. I started doing radio and TV when I was 16. So I have been on and off radio and television media for the better part of my life, really, if you think about it. I don't find it difficult. I don't find it hard. I don't get, when I say I don't get nervous, I don't get paralyzingly nervous. I don't get nervous to the point where I'm sweating. I'm going to, have horrible things happen to me, that so much that, someone has to drag me in front of the mic. I can't sit down. I'm sweating. I'm that kind of thing doesn't happen to me. But I do get butterflies. I do get nervous because I think I think if you care about what you're doing, that you should get a little nervous. If you put a lot of energy into what you're doing, you should get a little nervous. If you put energy into it, if it means something to you, you should get a little nervous. And sure enough, I get a little nervous. So Sundays for me have become almost somewhat lost type days. I woke up this morning, I cleaned my house because I happen to have two cats. You may have even heard the cats drift into the show. Longtime listeners and viewers have heard my cats drift in here, especially one that is particularly vocal when I'm not giving her all of my attention. So I cleaned this morning, and then I tried to just settle myself and just try and clear my head and get ready for what I needed to do today, which is this. And so we had this little brownout, which was a power fluctuation. My TV turned itself on and off a few times, actually, 2 or 3 separate times. And my air conditioning unit was running at the time. And I didn't really think much of it when it happened. But after that, I was more happy that the TV didn't blow itself up, to be honest with you. But I didn't really think of it much at the time, but at the time that it happened, and from that time forward, the AC unit began to blow warm air. And I thought, all right. I do know it's very warm outside. Could be that the unit is just struggling a bit to keep up. No problem. Check the Weather Channel app. It's 93 degrees outside. Feels like 103. Okay. Can deal with that. And as I'm sitting there, I'm realizing, gosh, it is getting warm in here. Warmer and warmer and warmer. And that particular cat, my female cat, Sis, is looking at me just more and more rotten all the time. She's just giving me dirtier and dirtier looks all the time. And I realize it's now 80 degrees inside my home. Only 2 hours away from the brownout, it's now 80 degrees. So I call UGI. They're wonderful. No free commercial here for UGI. They certainly didn't offer me any free help for AGI. I don't need to give UGI any free help, but they were great. I got a great technician on there. Like, shut everything down. We'll get somebody out there right away. The gentleman came, and he said everything's awesome. There's some sort of safety switch in there. And basically what happened is you did have an overload in the system. It more or less shut itself off, but the fan kept running, and that's where your hot air is coming from. So I was basically pumping hot air into the house, which, not great. So we got that taken care of, and I can't tell you, and the gentleman actually I think he may have left while I was getting prepared for the show today. So if I sound a little bit disjointed, I totally would understand. If you're thinking to yourself, if you're on the other end thinking to yourself, wow, boy, he sounds like he's just not really mentally connected at the moment. That's true. I don't feel mentally connected at the moment because I was just pretty relieved to find out that I don't need a new $40,000 AC unit. I was really, really happy to find that out. I am waiting. I have to say, I'm waiting a little bit on my guest. Because I think when we had that brownout, I had a little bit of internet issues. So although I appear to be getting out on the air to all of you well, all of my connections seem to be fine. My guest is having a bit of issues getting in to the Zoom. So that's a problem. We're working on that. My guest, Cole Goodman, who is just really one of the great guys you're ever going to meet. I mean, he's just a super, super good guy. He is trying to get into the Zoom. Oh, I see he's in the waiting room. Oh, awesome. Okay, great. You don't need to listen to me keep babbling about my air conditioning. Just not the most exciting topic in the world. But he's joining us just now, and we'll do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. There's my man. There's Cole. He's going to be hooking up to the audio shortly. You didn't listen. Jeff Kennedy air conditioning stories are not really the most exciting thing on the planet. Let's just be honest about that. But that's so my head is just a little bit swimming. I'm grateful for all of your patience out there listening, viewing, wherever you're listening and viewing. So let's do just a little bit of housekeeping before I introduce my guest, who's just been kind enough to join us now. So internet problems set aside, air conditioning problems set aside. It's only about, oh gosh, probably 85 degrees in the humble second bedroom homemade studio where I'm coming to you from. Hopefully I don't look like I'm melting. If you've ever watched a translucent Irish band melt, you're going to get to see it right now. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Wherever you are watching us from, I think Cole and I are are arguing, but with our mute, we're unmuting each other. It's hilarious. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping before I formally. Wherever you may be with us on Facebook right now, and I am thrilled that you are with us regardless of wherever you may be. It is the home group page for the show, that other side of information where I will see your comments and or questions, and your comments and questions are more than welcome. We honor them. We want them in. Bring it. We'd like to see them. That other side of information is where we will see your questions and comments. If you are watching over any of the other groups, pages, wherever else it is that we share the show, we are thrilled that you are here. Wherever you fall on the political spectrum, left, right, center, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, outside the Terran solar system, we're just glad that you are here. You are welcome. Your views are respected here. For our friends and family at hot101.net, you can hear the show at the main webpage, hot101.net, and on the app. If you don't have the hot101.net app yet, you can get the app at the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store for Android, and you can also get hot101.net at the TuneIn radio app. You can find us at any of those places, and I encourage you to do so. You can also see, you might have to zoom, but I also put that information over my right shoulder, which might be the left shoulder on your screen, and hopefully all of that wording is not backward. I'm told that it appears backward to me, but looks forward on your screen. Hopefully that's how it appears. So then we will open up the show to calls later in the show. I will put the phone number on the screen, and we will open up the show to calls later on, as long as the Wi-Fi holds out, because the Wi-Fi blew up when the power went brown today. It has been a day, folks. Let me just tell you, it's been a wonderful day here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Let me just tell you, if COVID-19 has shown us that there is any public service, public utility, need or issue that is more important than anything else in this great Commonwealth, it is the need for broadband. I can tell you. My goodness gracious. I mean, wow. I did the show last week with Shivanya entirely on wireless. I happen to have this lovely Eero wireless system here in my home through RCN, and it worked flawlessly. I'm pumping a lot of software through one laptop and the board and sound and all this wonderful stuff through a wireless port, believe it or not, in the second bedroom, and it's working pretty well. Although I did get a message earlier that my wireless is unstable. Always love seeing that message. Makes me feel wonderfully comfortable. Poor Cole and I, there are gnomes or gremlins or some ethereal kind of thing out there that have just butchered us the last 2-3 weeks about getting this together. I don't know what kind of gremlins are in the air about getting poor Cole and I together. I can only hope that at the end of this, he hopes it's not a terrible mistake that he showed up today, but we're going to press forward and get this show going. And so anyway, let me introduce my friend and my guest for this week. I'm gonna do what we always do. We're gonna start the show the way we always start it, with the question of the week, and then the conversation grows organically from there. But my guest is my friend, and I'm lucky and honored to be able to say that. And anyone who knows them feels the exact same way. And my guest this week is the Honorable Cole Goodman. Cole, welcome to the program.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We got you, my friend. Thank you for being here. And I apologize for the problems getting in. I think that brownout did really let the gremlins go.
Yeah, it's happening to a lot of people, as you said, across the Commonwealth. And I just want to say it is a super honor to be on That Other Kennedy. And I loving the signs in the background, loving the get up today, my friend. And I just want to say that it's right back to you. I love you so much, and I respect the heck out of you.
Well, I would say respectfully, this is not a get up. We just try to cover as much of it. When you look like this, when you have face for radio, my friend, you cover as much of it as you possibly can. We don't all look like you, my friend.
Oh,
we don't all look like you. When you got face for radio and you have to do part of the presentation of the program in a video form, you cover as much of it as you possibly can. So this is what we do. We do with the traditional Irish hat. An old guy like me, we're not all young like you. We have to have our glasses on so we can actually see what's in front of us. So I don't have to squint and hunt and peck, and I don't knock the computer over. I don't blow anything up, things like that. And so this is what we do. So again, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. We're already at 20 past the hour here on the East Coast. This is the Kennedy Effect for 19 July 2020. My guest is Cole Goodman. For those of you on Facebook, wherever you may be watching, we're thrilled that you are here, he said, or tried to say in English. If you want us to see your comments and questions, we need you to go to the home Facebook page for the show, and that would be That Other Side of Information. That's where we live. That's our home. But wherever you may be watching, we're just thrilled that you're here. You are welcome here, wherever you may fall in the political spectrum. If you are with us, part of the Hot101.net family, thank you for being here. This is our second week going worldwide on Hot101.net. You can get us at the homepage for Hot101.net or on the app. If you don't have the app yet, you can get it at the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or if you go to the TuneIn Radio app, you can find us there. No pressure, Cole. You're worldwide. No pressure, my friend. Anyway, that said,
you're gonna make by saying that you're gonna make my hairline recede even more than it already is.
No. Listen, we're just going to have, we've talked about this before. You've been kind enough to tell me that you watch the show regularly. If you don't get it live, you've told me that you've watched it recorded. So I appreciate that. You know how the show goes. You and I are having a conversation. We're just honored enough to have some folks dropping in on that. And, as we move in through the program, we're just going to have a conversation. We'll open up the phone line later on as we go. Hopefully we'll get some phone calls this week. That is my holy grail. Phone calls. I want this program to be, Tom Hartman is my talk radio, my real talk radio sort of. I emulate that, and that's the guy, man. That's the guy, yeah. And I really do want to be able to turn this into a full-fledged guest and interactive take phone calls sort of deal. So hopefully we'll get some calls later in the program. But that said, let's dive into this, Cole. You know how the program works. I can't say we are friends, and I am honored by that. Believe me, I don't just say that flippantly. I mean it very deeply. But I can't say that that I know every single thing in the world about you. I do not know you as well as I wish I did. but you do know how the program works. So let's start off with the very question that we kick off every program with, and that is this. Who is Cole Goodman? How did you get here?
Yes, sir. Um, Originally, I'm from the South. I'm from Louisiana, but I grew up in the Czech Republic, and went to the International School of Prague, and that was very transformative in my life because I was able to go to school with people from all different countries all over the world and learn about all different cultures, ethnicities, creeds, nationalities. And to this day, I have friends in Chechnya, Kazakhstan, Japan, Singapore, that are looking at us here in America and being like, what the heck are you guys doing? But that's a whole other, we'll probably get into that.
You know what? I usually don't cut people off this quick, and here I am doing it already.
You're fine. You're fine.
How important is that? Because before I moved back to the Lehigh Valley, I was very fortunate to spend probably 20-ish years on the eastern half of New Jersey, specifically in the Morris County, Morristown area, which is an exceptionally international little place given its size.
Yeah.
And for all of my friends, specifically German and the UK, they continually would remark to me about how sheltered Americans are, generally speaking, even compared to Canadians and even Mexicans. Given the fact that you have so many, that you did that travel earlier on in your life, and you're not an old man by any means, you're less than half my age. But then again, everybody in the world is younger than me. So that said,
I know you couldn't tell.
Yes, stop. But that said, how important is that? Because Americans don't travel. We don't generally. A very small percentage. You probably know more than me. I used to know this, and the stat just left my brain. I think it's only 17% of Americans have a passport. I want to say maybe 24%.
Cut out. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, you cut out.
I think it's only 24% of Americans or 17% of Americans have a passport.
Yeah, you're around that ballpark.
So we don't travel. So the international travel that you did is really important.
I think it. Let me put it this way. When before COVID, when some of my European friends came and visited me and met some of my American colleagues and the questions that they asked my friends from different countries were stooped in ignorance and steeped in a lack of wanting and a lack of knowledge of the rest of the world. And so, yeah, I think it's very important. And everyone listening on this call, if you have not traveled outside your city, if you have not traveled outside your town, outside your state, and outside this country, when COVID goes down, get that passport and go experience other cultures. Go talk to people who may have different ways of living and viewpoints than you do. But Jeff, you're absolutely right. It's so important to get out and see the world, because it really can not only change you as a person, but it can really change your political views as well.
I interrupted you, of course. You were telling me the story of Cole Goodman, but when you said international, that keyed something off in the small little bits of gray matter that are still up here, that that we don't, as a society, generally speaking, Americans don't travel. We don't go to other countries in the same way that Europeans or South Americans tend to travel.
Well, and when Americans go to other countries, it's with an expectation of them being treated, quite honestly, like royalty because they're Americans. That is like the one pet peeve that my friends have who live in other countries with Americans, is that Americans go to these other countries and expect people to speak English. expect people to understand American culture when, if that happens vice versa, and people from other nationalities and creeds come here, we expect them to, you know, do the complete opposite of what Americans expect when they go to other countries. So yeah. But just to continue on with what you asked me first, went to high school here in Central PA. Went to Harrisburg Academy. Graduated from there. Went to Penn State. Go Lions. And then while I was in college, I was about 20 years old. You know, and I woke up. I live in a township where historically our school district has been very troubled. And I would wake up and I would complain about it. I would just be like, what are they doing? You know, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to run for school board myself. So I ran for school board at the age of 20. I won, served. I'm a former school board member in Susquehanna Township, served a year on school board, and then was like, you know what? I want to take it to the next level, and I want to represent my county. So I then ran for Democratic State Committee to represent, which I know you serve on as well, my friend, and having the.
I actually don't.
Well, you should, because you're at the meeting sometimes more than some state committee members. So
yeah, well, yes, and thank you. I will make you repeat that statement when my county chair shows up in the Facebook room. But yeah, I'll have you repeat that.
I will repeat it gladly. I will without hesitation. Currently serve on state committee, and then also through state committee have the honor of serving on the executive board of the Democratic State Party. One of the youngest members on the executive board, but we'll get into that later.
Right.
Yeah. And
yes, you are.
last year had the incredible honor, even through loss, of running for recorder of deeds in my county of Dauphin. We have many in our county government. I'm sorry.
And we can talk. You taught an entire generation of Pennsylvanians what recorder of deeds is. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, it was interesting. One of our statewide elected officials, we were passing each other in a hallway, and he said, I didn't even know what a recorder of deeds was or what a recorder of deeds did. But if I run for anything, I'm going to lay my heart on the table. And I'm going to meet as many of our residents as possible. We knocked 10,000 doors as a campaign for recorder of deeds, educated people on what the office does and how we can change it. And, you know, I just ran a real positive campaign. I can't say the same thing for my counterparts, but you know, when we have incumbents in these offices for 2 decades, it's time for change. And I'm sure, and we'll get into this, but we see that across Pennsylvania. And I just wanted to make a change, and we unfortunately didn't make it, but we came pretty close. And since then, we've still had the energy from that campaign and others that is really stewing in Dauphin County of not only just trying to get Trump out of office, which is my personal opinion, but also making sure people get out and vote every year, which is important as well.
And tell me, Cole, for nothing other than the entertainment value, I'm gonna giggle at that. What is the recorder of deeds?
Sure. So the recorder,
because let's be honest. I mean, we have to be honest. You took what is a county row office, mm-hmm. that, again, not just, to be fair, not just something that most Democrats did not know what it was, but that most people with a pulse did not know what it was, mm-hmm. and made it an exceptionally contested, high-profiled race. And you know, I imagine that we could get, you know, a little bit into the campaign dynamics of it.
Yeah.
the campaign that you ran for this very, I want to be disrespectful to the folks that hold the office throughout the
I
Commonwealth,
know,
but you
something that isn't
took this
out
very
front.
low. You took this office that most people don't know anything about, and you very well may have done a lot for your opponent if you really think about it.
Well,
I mean, to be honest.
A few points on what you said. So, one, I'm very glad to say that I think after our campaign, our opponent, who is Dauphin County Recorder of Deeds, Jim Zuge, will be held accountable every year until re-election now. It's not just, sitting back and just not educating people on the office. It's funny, right after election day for the past year until COVID hit, he's actually been out in the community, first time in 20 years, quite honestly. So that's a victory in itself. The Recorder of Deeds office, at least in Dauphin County, harbors our land bank and the history of our county when it comes to residential deeds and commercial deeds. But also, it provides so many other services that is one of the main things that my campaign was built on. There are so many other services that the Recorder of Deeds office gives to the county, but we wouldn't know it because we never see our recorder in the community. And let me just say, I'm not even just trying to bash on our recorder. This is top down in at least in my county in Dauphin, of where we do not see our row officers. So like veteran ID services, veteran discount cards, and such. There are so many things that the recorder's office does, but we wouldn't know it because we don't have elected officials that are.
I think we're going to be battling wireless issues all day. I think Cole froze on us. We're going to be battling wireless issues today. Could be me, could be him, not sure. Interesting. We're just going to try to hang in there. I hope as you know, folks, at least those that are on Facebook, I monitor this show. You see me bounce. Yeah, you might have gotten kicked out. I bounce back and forth between the laptop where I take the Zoom call with the guest. Yes, Cole actually got kicked out. So I'm guessing that's a wireless on his, probably a Wi-Fi or internet connection on his end. If you watch the show on Facebook, you know that I tend to move around a lot because I have the conversation with the guest on Zoom facing the laptop where I'm talking to him, whomever the guest is that particular week. And then I tend to bounce back and forth where I monitor the show on Facebook. So it seems that Cole is having an internet issue. And I was not making fun. I mean, I guess I was making fun. It is a tiny bit of a thing to giggle about. But if this COVID crisis has laid anything bare, and it has laid a lot of things bare. It has laid bare the healthcare industry, because we do not have a healthcare system. We have a health-based exploitative industry, a health profit industry. If it has laid bare the desperate wealth inequality problem that we have in the United States, if it has laid bare just how bad, how little, how a minimum wage, how poor wages are in the nation, if not just the Commonwealth. One thing it has laid bare, that if our society is going to continue to be pushed into these virtual realms, that the broadband and internet connectivity in this Commonwealth is absolutely brutal. To drag out a bit of an Irish word for you, it is shite. It's dreadful in every way, shape, or form. I know I'm having a bit of dodgy wireless today. I did have to reset the system. I was lucky enough that when we had our brownout around 2 p.m., I was able to reset everything. And I believe everything is fine. I have full bars on all of the devices that I happen to have in front of me. But I believe Cole is having issues. He has not dialed back in. I hope that he will do so. We're at 5:36 Eastern Time here on the Kennedy Effect for July 19, 2020. My guest is technically Cole Goodman. He's having, I believe, internet issues. So we will carry forward. I will put, I'm going to actually message him back in if you can. You get to actually listen to me text Cole. How exciting is that? I'm going to change my name on the Zoom. I know this is terribly exciting for those of you at Hot 101 listening to me do some technical stuff on the side. It's not terribly exciting radio. I cannot lie to you about that and try to make that it is. I'm going to put the phone number for the show on the screen for those of you. Oh, there he is. Let me get Cole back in after I get the phone number up. 9189. I will rename myself. Cole is coming back in. If we lose him again, we'll get him on the Google number. We can do it that way. I believe he's getting back in. Is it internet? I think it's internet issues. I think we're all having internet issues. Yeah. You are muted, I believe, at the moment. I don't want to play tag with you. And there it is. Okay. I was going to play tag with you on the internet. I didn't want that to happen. We were playing mute. We were playing mute tag before. I didn't want to play mute tag with you again.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jeff.
Don't. Please don't, because I did it before too. I think I was having internet issues before here too. I was getting warning signals on the screen too. So we're all having it. I think we're having. I think with the Commonwealth has been plagued with some storms today. So I think we're all having internet issues today. So again, let me just reset the program. 5:38 Eastern Time here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and around the world. 5:38 Eastern Time for all of you on Facebook. It is the home group page where we will see your comments and questions. That other side of information. And for our friends and family at Hot 101, you can listen to us on the main website page, hot101.net, or the hot101.net app. If you do not yet have the app, you can go to the Apple App Store or Google Play if you have an Android device, or go to the TuneIn radio app. My guest is Cole Goodman. Cole, have at it. We were at Recorder. You were explaining to us the intricacies and sign of the Recorder of Deeds.
So people listening are probably like, good Lord, this guy's just talking about a Recorder of Deeds office. I'm already snoozing. But it is so important for whatever office that anyone runs for to be in the community and meet the community where they're at. And I'm super proud that's what our Recorders campaign could do. We knocked 10,000 doors. I think we've knocked the most doors of any candidate that's probably run in Dauphin County history. We went also into areas that people, usually like take for granted. You don't usually see Democrats campaigning in Northern Dauphin County because, it's so Republican that Democrats usually just write it off. Our team was proud to go to every municipality in the northern part of our county, from Likens to Elizabethville to Millersburg, Halifax, and meet people where we are or where they are. And a lot of people told me when I came to their door, they were like, we've never had a candidate for anything come to my door to talk to me. And especially when COVID subsides, we need to get out of this like pattern of electing people that don't even give a damn enough to come talk to you, their constituents, and hear what that you have to say. hear what you have to say about making government better, county government better, state government better. So that's what we really tried to do. The most fun experience of my life.
So really, at that point, then, recorder of deeds, almost, and you were running for the office. If you had gotten elected, you would have served in the office. You would have done the job 110%.
Mm-hmm.
But to a point, that office was almost an allegory for government as a whole, because you're knocking on people's doors and they're saying, we've never had a single government official come to our door and ask us for a vote. We've never seen a single government official, period.
I apologize for interrupting, but I knocked in my opponent's neighborhood and had people tell me he's never been to their door. So, our recorder of deeds, I will say, and I said everywhere when I was knocking, very nice gentleman, but it's time for proactive leadership, not reactionary leadership. Like, we need, especially during and post COVID, we need elected officials that want to fight for their constituents and be that proactive leader and model for other elected officials in Pennsylvania and the United States. So yeah, absolutely. If I would have won, gosh, I had so many good ideas for that office. Oh my Lord. And I would have had it would have been a real honor to serve, but I am so thankful for the 24,348 people that, put their trust in me to vote for me and to want me to represent them, which is nothing but an honor. It's not anything about clout, ego, anything like that. It's just public service is an honor.
Well, first off, you're never interrupting me. I'm the host. I get to talk all the heck I want. If I want to come on, the folks at Hot 101 have been tremendous to me. We've talked about multiple days and call-ins and all that fun stuff. You're never interrupting me. You're the guest. People don't tune in here to listen to me drone on. They came here to listen to you. So don't worry about that. But I do think it's an important point that you raise. Your campaign for this office that I shouldn't say no one, that very, very few people even knew existed, let alone knew what it does, became a very, dare I say, symbolic campaign, because it became, in a way, its own story of you, your emergence and growth, but also a symbol of, dare I say, politics itself and the state of politics, in that you ran a campaign, which, by the way, in my own campaign consulting work, I tell campaigns and candidates that you can run a campaign where you do both things, where you say about your opponent, it's a good human being, it's a perfectly fine human being. I'm sure he or she loves their family and loves the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and their municipality and the country and the planet, but the job, period. They just don't do the job. Policy. We disagree on where we are headed as a society. We disagree on these policy issues. And you ran that campaign. You said of your opponent, the long-term incumbent opponent, look, perfectly fine gentleman. We disagree on these things. And at the same time, knocking on doors of people who never saw a candidate ever in their lives. Even if you take aside the fact that they didn't know what the heck a recorder of deeds was, never saw any candidate of either party.
Right. I will be the first to say there's a lot wrong in the Democratic Party, and I'm sure we're going to get to that on this show.
Oh, I say it every week.
Yep.
I say it every week.
I'm an elected member in the Democratic Party, and I'll say it. There's a lot wrong with the Democratic Party, but I will say this.
I say it every week.
When I ran for recorder, one of my top campaign policies and what I ran on didn't even really, in some ways it did, but in other ways it would have taken working with other elected officials in repairing are blighted and abandoned properties throughout Dauphin County. It's absolutely atrocious. I went into houses that were falling on top of other. There was a mother, I'll never forget, her name was Teresa. She had 4 kids, and she had an abandoned property that was falling on top of her house. And she reached out to our county government multiple times, and now we're sitting here 12 years later, and it's still in the same place that it is now. So I wanted to bring an issue that is affecting so many, not even just in the city of Harrisburg, but across our county and across our Commonwealth to light. And my Republican counterparts, uh, they would attack me and say, this is a non-issue. This doesn't have anything to do with your office. Why are you talking about this? I'm talking about it because it is plaguing our community. And on both sides of the aisle, we need to get out of the trenches of just talking about policies that we're comfortable with. We need to really start talking about what's plaguing inner city, rural, urban communities across the Commonwealth, and not attack people that try to bring it to light.
Well, we could probably do several hours on hypocrisy. One of my favorite topics.
I think we saw some this weekend.
And oh heck yeah, heck yeah, heck yeah, heck yeah. Yes. Oh goodness. Yeah, we could. Gosh.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know it's swirling through my brain too. And I just want the viewers to know and such, I am not an egomaniac. I'm not just wearing a shirt that just says my name. This is actually my Recorder of Deeds shirt. I got it out of my girlfriend's closet, and I put it on, and I forgot. I was like, oh man, and I saw it on the screen, and I'm like, wow, that if I saw someone just wearing a shirt with their name on it, that's. But yeah, actually, we're on the topic. This was our logo. And if to add one more point, my campaign couldn't have been what it was without, one, my family, and two, my team and my friends.
And a good pair of sneakers, because
oh gosh, I went through so many sneakers.
Brother, you put on more. You had to lose weight during that campaign. You walked more miles. Let me tell you what. You walked more miles.
I think that was the best part of the campaign, that I could eat all the junk food I want, and I know I'm going to burn it off the next day.
Yeah, the exercise.
Right.
Every day I logged on to Facebook, and it was, here's Cole. I'm walking here. I'm walking there. I'm walking here. I'm walking there.
I personally don't understand elected officials, especially candidates that don't love doing that. Because that's what makes the memories. That's where you connect with people, and you can even I love the quote, iron sharpens iron. And a lot of people sharpen me, and I sharpen them by having those conversations. But just to round out my last thought, I couldn't have, and any candidate will say this, I couldn't have done it without my family, team, and friends. From friends like my friend Bailey, one of my friends, Shavania Corbin Johnson, who you had on last week. These were friends
and thank you for that, by the way. That was rock star. I hope you got the chance to watch it. That was what a great conversation that was.
I did.
I think I got her in trouble too. She was, if you had a chance to watch the entire program, and it's not short. I'm not going to tell you that it is. We had a good 3 hours together, she and I.
Wow.
And she was, she just kept, especially as we moved on through the program, she kept looking down at the phone, and I could tell, I'm like, I know she needs to go. I know she needs to go. And we just kept going. And finally, she's like, I really got to go. She's like, my phone is absolutely just freaking out over here. She had work to do. But she did ask me, and on air, by the way, especially if you get toward the end of the program, regular viewers and listeners will know, asked me on air when we were going to do it again. So we will have to do it. We'll have to do it again, and I look forward to it, because we could have kept going.
She's my best friend.
Yeah, we could have kept going deep into the night. That was just a brilliant program and conversation.
She's spectacular, and I'll vote for her. I voted for her for Congress when she ran in our district, and I'll vote for her again for whatever she runs for. but as Shabania would say too, none of it's possible without friends, family, and team. Just people who weren't even getting paid, because when you run for county row office, you're not raking in the bucks, you're not raking in the fundraising. But for people who were I was just like, guys, can you come up to Williamstown with me? It's 2 hours north, and knock these doors with me. All right, let's go. Get in the car, go. Those are the people that make the campaign so special. And I think that's why our campaign, it wasn't even my campaign, it was everyone's campaign, really, I think got a lot of attention in a year where, let's just be honest, nothing, there was no hot race.
No,
Like it was
and
pretty.
there rarely is an odd year elections. There's generally a big issue, big office, big name it. There's not 4th of July fireworks that brings folks out to the polls in these 19, 21, 23, 25 year, 2017, 2015, 2013, 2019, 2021, 2023 going forward. There's rarely, a real big thing that's going to draw people out to the polls for that in a nation plagued by voter apathy.
Right.
Those odd year elections simply do not bring people to the polls. And
Right.
not so sure, on occasion, I'm not so sure that it isn't designed that way.
Wow.
Sadly.
That is a whole nother cup of tea. We went from hypocrisy to that.
Well, hey, look, that's the beauty of the program. We want to keep people, we'll keep your brain bouncing all over. One of the taglines we have a lot of taglines, but one of the taglines of the program, the main tagline probably, is to educate, inform, and engage. That's why we have a phone number. Eventually, one of these years, hopefully I will live long enough to see it. Somebody will call and we'll have a discussion. But I mean, it's, we'll do that. But that is part of it. I mean, it was, and that's why, folks might wonder why we're spending so much time on a campaign for Recorder of Deeds. But I do believe, though, that your campaign was so multi-layered. I'd like to think of I'd like to open up the thesaurus, easy for me to say. I'd like to open up the thesaurus and think of so many different words for it, but it was an allegory. It was an allegory on modern politics in a lot of different ways. And I mentioned Facebook because I would be at work and I would be sitting at my workstation cleaning equipment, and I would open up Facebook and I would see something from you. And I would see you sitting in the kitchen table of a woman, and I'm gonna be a little here.
Yeah, go.
And it would be a white woman in her 70s, 80s, sometimes into her 90s, who had never seen someone. And again, I'm gonna get in there a little bit.
Who was black?
Who'd never looked like you.
There's no.
And you would say, and you would type in the caption. Let me just be blunt about it. Who'd never seen someone, or if she had seen someone, never had talked to someone like you before. Mm-hmm. And you would say, I just had an hour-long conversation with whatever the name was. And not only did she not know what Recorder of Deeds was, she'd never talked to a candidate for office before. She'd never talked to a person of color before. Never talked to a young person before. And you would rattle off a list of things that a woman of that description had never done before. But at the end of that caption would be, she will be voting for me in November. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, and I do remember this, and you will correct me if I'm not remembering it correctly, some of those captions would be, she may not be voting for me in November, but at least we talked for an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those were sometimes the posts that would get to me. She may not vote for me on election day, but we established something in that conversation.
And first of all, you're spot on. Those posts were, and those were the moments for me. And that happened especially when I became the Democratic nominee and towards the end of the campaign, where, of course, I was running to win. Of course, I was running to be recorder. But sometimes, a lot of the times, it just got deeper than that. You know, I honestly, sometimes at a house, I'd forget I was there as a candidate. And we were just there as two human beings, just talking about, you know, the issues, but also what their background stories are. What's your story? What brought you to this place? What brought you to Williamstown? What brought you to Halifax? What do you think of our national government? What do you listen? Are you a cat or dog person? Do you do you and those are the conversations that truly, and I meant it when I said it, if they didn't vote for me, I was still blessed to have them. And a lot of those people, even if they didn't vote for me, still reached out to me via Facebook or via call, and we're still connected to this day because we're still trying to find solutions. I'm gonna put out a quote here. We're still trying to find systemic solutions for systemic problems,
Right.
and that only comes with dialogue with people that you may not be comfortable speaking with.
Right. But that is before all of this, before the all of the various technologies that you and I are speaking together now, that we have been forced to use because of the virus, and even virus notwithstanding the fact that we happen to be 2 hours from each other.
But I always feel close.
Yeah. Yes. God knows you couldn't sleep at night without thinking of me first. But 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 honestly, that's how campaigning was done then, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you walked the beat, so to speak. You knocked the doors, and it was connection.
Yep.
And sadly, the virus has stripped us of a lot of that. But that's campaigning. That's where we get the cliches. You got to knock the doors. You got to press the
But
flush,
Jeff,
get the babies. You got the ribbons.
but Jeff, like, I'm gonna just specify of something you said. That's campaigning. Campaigning isn't uh, being like some of our, I'll just call out some names here, being like some of our U.S. senators and such who we only see around on election time, you know, and sometimes we only see them on TV. But we're never going to see them in our grocery stores. We're never going to see them at our front door. How long are we going to keep electing politicians that aren't, that aren't in our, or aren't coming not just to our churches, but coming to visit us when we're sick? How long are we like going to keep electing people that do not give a damn about us? Because as you said, that's true campaigning. When you can reach someone person to person and heart to heart, that is like what campaigning is really all about. When I see candidates just put money towards TV, I don't call that campaigning. I call that, I just call it, honestly, I just call it pandering. So yeah, I just wanted to stress that point you made.
Well, you will know, as well as you will know. And again, that name that's on my square in Zoom is not there by accident. It is there by heritage. It is there by blood. When Bobby Kennedy resigned from the Johnson administration after the assassination of President Kennedy,
Mm-hmm.
was not his original intention to run for president.
Right.
He went on tour.
Yes.
Didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Started traveling the country.
Yep.
He went
Everywhere.
the Appalachians through the rural, then started traveling the South,
Mm-hmm.
especially into sections of the South that were predominantly inhabited by folks of color,
Mm-hmm.
the poor sections, not all sections of people of color, but predominantly the poor sections.
And as not only a white man,
Mm-hmm.
but a white man with a tremendous amount of privilege. And
Correct.
that is like one of the things I respect about RFK so much is that he put himself into those uncomfortable situations that yep.
But I bring this up for a reason, to tie on to what you were just talking about, because he was not campaigning at that point, but he was doing what you have just described and what those Facebook posts were about. And there's a film crew that followed him, and I want to actually say it was a BBC crew, if I'm not mistaken. But there is some film of it. I'm sure you folks could find it on YouTube if you looked hard enough. And I want to say it was in a northern section, inland section, if you can remember your geography and what the shapes of Mississippi and Alabama look like. It's those northern inland sections. And this film crew gets him outside of this family's quite literal shack. And the shack and the family is on the, I guess what you would call the front porch, although that's a it's a very
use that term loosely.
Yeah, very loosely. And you know, the shack itself is essentially built out of what we would now call pallet wood, tin roof, and there's just the group of them is just outside on the, and he's in a white shirt, slacks. He's got a suit jacket, although I don't know why, because I believe it's summer. And they're asking him about what he's seen. And he really is staring sort of at nothing. He's looking at the ground and he's kind of looking at the sky, occasionally listening to the camera, but the stare is rather blank. Not really making eye contact with anyone or anything, really. And he just says, this is not what we are. There has to be more than this. We have to be a better country than this. And a nation, by the way, that was still deep into, when you talk about systemic, that was into systemic segregation, yes, into systemic racism, yes, but on the other side of the coin, as you will know, still very systemic and deep into the systems and policies of the New Deal. But yet right behind him, not 20 feet, was a family living in a family of color, living in a shack that had no running water, no electricity, no sewer system. The children were, I believe, in a school, but God only knows what that school must have looked like. And he just sort of stared into the distance, occasionally glancing at the camera, and said, this can't be what we fought a world war for. This can't be what Roosevelt had in mind when he literally saved capitalism and the world economic system from itself with the New Deal. And the press, and I have to say, some of the posts that I saw from you when you were making connections with these most senior of citizens who lived through that era, by the way, and were living in, and I gotta say, I saw some of the kitchens that you sat in weren't much better. That's the kind of connections that we're talking about. That's campaigning.
And so a few points on
the hell of an allegory I'm making on you. I'm piling a bit of weight on you there, sir, but that's what we're talking about.
First of all, to be put in the same sentence as RFK is just like a real big honor, especially coming from you in any way. We can get into this, but the Kennedys are like my favorite. Yep. I have that in my room too. So we're in no different place from when Bobby Kennedy was looking on those shacks, and that's also why I've really have tried to become a civil and social justice leader in this new Black Lives Matter movement, because many people are living in the exact same conditions that you just described. And what really grinds my gears, shout out Peter Griffin, what really grinds my gears is when we have elected officials saying everything is just fine. That's when you know someone is completely detached from the people that they're trying to serve. But the point that you raised of that he's looking at, these people living in just absolute poverty, no running water. We have a borough here in Dauphin County, Steelton. The people will not Many people will not drink out of the water of the sink because it's been poisoned. We have places in Harrisburg where buildings that burnt to the ground a decade ago are still up and are a hazard to our community. And we have many people who are homeless who are living in those buildings, and we need to make sure that they're safe too. So just the allegory you said, I just wanted to stress that we're in no different place. And the people that are saying that we're in a better place, yeah, maybe my mom doesn't have to sit at colored only counters anymore, but people are still living in the poverty that really disproportionately affects minority communities in this country. That's Braxton. He's probably the cutest dog that's ever lived.
No worries. No worries. You'll remember if you got to see the episode of the program where Kadita Kenner was on, her cat took a couple darts across, took her right in the chin once. And she was embarrassed. And I'm like, are you kidding? That's the best thing that's happened all day. Like, I love it. They're members of the family. They are absolute members of the family.
They are absolute members of the family.
They are. My cat might be up here at some point. Don't worry. If she wants something, she's going to come up and start screaming. So don't worry about that.
I would just pick him. I just want.
You might have an appearance.
Yeah, we're going to make an appearance. This is Braxton.
Is he a beagle?
Yeah, he is. And just so your international and worldwide audience can see, possibly what.
For those of you listening on hot101.net, first off, thank you. And Cole has his beagle Braxton with us here on Zoom, and beagles
this is my girlfriend's beagle.
Oh, your girlfriend's.
But still part
Beagles
of the family.
The absolute best. Beagles are the best. I'll get comments, and I will get folks championing their breeds of choice. But I'm a beagle. I'm partial to beagles.
Nice.
The Irish in me is partial to the beagles. I will tell you that. Let's reset the program. We're at the top of the hour, I believe, a little bit past the top of the hour, the first hour in the books. You are on the Kennedy Effect for July 19, 2020. Wherever you may be watching and or listening on Facebook, thank you. Thank you for being here. Your presence is welcomed and honored. Wherever you may fall on the political spectrum, your opinions are honored and respected and welcomed. Here it is, our home Facebook page. That other side of information where we will see your questions and comments. But wherever you are watching, you are welcome, and we thank you for doing so. To our friends and family at hot101.net, thank you for being here. It is our second week worldwide on hot101.net. You can listen to us at the main Facebook page for Hot 101 at, yep, you got it, hot101.net. And you can listen to us on the hot101.net app. You can get the app at the Apple App Store or Google Play if you have an Android device, or you can go to the TuneIn Radio app and listen to us there. My thanks to DJ Lexus, DJ Earl, for helping get everything set up here at my home studio office, and of course, my friend, my partner, my shaman, my sometimes psychiatrist who charges me no money whatsoever, and it's probably why I use her so much as a psychiatrist, April Riddick, and my producer, partner, friend, spirit guide, and everything that you could ever hope for in a friend, April Riddick, for doing everything she has done for me so far. And will probably sadly continue to do so because she does it so great. I keep leaning on her. So she's didn't know what she was getting into when she became friends with me. I can tell you that. I do have the phone number on the screen. We are not ready for phone calls yet, but we will open up the phone line later on in the program. So you brought up, well, I don't want to quite leave this quite yet because you are 24,
26.
26.
Mm-hmm.
So you have only ever grown up in a post-Reagan Revolution United States.
Correct. And half of my life was not in the United States.
And not right. Well, yeah, but it's a post-Reagan world, really, right, because the austerity and the massive tax cuts on the top 1% and the myth of trickle down is something that has pervaded the globe. It has, sadly, and you will get the historical argument that part of his philosophy actually started in the UK with Thatcher in '78, and actually came here as an afterthought, although it was well underway. Reagan, of course, was governor of California first before ascending to the presidency. So the philosophy was already there. So we can argue timelines, but it's irrelevant. It was instituted on a nationwide basis in the UK first before being fully implemented here. My point being, you have lived in a post-Reagan Revolution world and United States only.
Mm-hmm.
You were not alive when the policies of the New Deal were still the preeminent policies of the United States. But you are a learned person. You have studied. I will often mention to my self-identified conservative friends that one of the wonderful things about the Gregorian calendar is that it is sequential. It is 2020. That presupposes that there was a 2019 and a 2018 and a 17. Reagan ascended to the presidency in 1981. That means there was an 80 and a 79 and a 76. Roosevelt was sworn in 1933. That means there was a 32 and a 30 and a. My point being, the United States was not created and birthed out of nowhere like the Big Bang in 1980. We had a nation before that, and it functioned. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and please do, because I don't mind learning things that I did not know, and I do not mind being corrected if I'm wrong about something. It was my impression of you when I began to follow your campaign that you were more you were less progressive than you are now when I became aware of you. Would that be correct?
You are, wait, no, okay, let me just make sure I understand what you're saying right. Are you saying that I became more progressive or I became more to the center?
Would you characterize your political or policy growth as that as you entered the political realm, you may have been more toward the center and have moved toward more of a New Deal?
Okay,
in the roots. I consider the New Deal to be the roots of the Democratic Party. It was Jefferson and Madison themselves, for all of their faults. And God knows we have taken on this re-examination of Jefferson and Madison. And yes, they had their warts. Mm-hmm. They also were the ones that fought for the inheritance tax and the estate tax and the progressive tax system. So while we may want to, while we can rightfully and historically accurately look at them as slaveholders, and they were, Jefferson also started the University of Virginia, and he fought for the estate tax and the inheritance tax and the progressive tax system because they wanted to prevent, and I quote, the establishment of a permanent upper class. It's also literally what we fought a revolution against. That said, it was my impression of you, and again, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, I want to get it right, that when I became aware of you, or as you entered politics, generally speaking, would you consider that you entered more toward the center and have moved more toward the roots of the party, which I would consider to be that Jefferson, Madisonian, New Deal, Great Society, moonshot, Peace Corps?
So first of all, you are not incorrect. When I first came into politics, I wouldn't even say that I was more to the center. I would actually say because of when I came into the political world, who I was around, I was scared to ruffle any feathers. I was scared to, and I'm the type of person when I can self-criticize myself with no problem. So when I first came in,
I don't bring that up as a criticism. I'm asking,
no,
as a human being, that evolution
but
You know,
this
how does that evolution happen?
but this is a criticism a minor criticism I've had on myself, in that when I first came into politics, I was scared to ruffle any feathers. I wanted to like play the, you know, oh well, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, so no, so everyone likes me type thing. But that evolution, which you're correct, I have become, and a lot of people even on my social media pages have been like, God, I love this progressive that you become. My evolution of policy and what I view, how I view policy, what I view are the immediate problems that we need fixing in our country. I've absolutely had a progressive transformation, and and I love it. And I love it. And I think that it was always inside me. But I mean, ask any of us on the progressive, train, from you to me to Alex Dietrich to, it is hard to stand up for those progressive values, because either you're being called by the far right a snowflake, bleeding heart liberal who, lives in his parents' basement, or by even people in our own party, you're being like, oh, that can never get done. What you're talking about, Green New Deal, that can't ever get done. Medicare for all, that can't ever get done. So my transformation came when I really just, and it came during the Recorders campaign, I'll say that, when I got to really see and hit, like, have it smack me in the face, like absolute poverty, absolute economic collapsing, absolute environmental collapsing. It hit me in the face, and I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I trying to be in this centrist category where that's not where my heart is? So
Let me ask you this, because this is important. Let me ask you this, and this is why I brought up this is why I went on this long diatribe of history. So you make this evolution. I want to ask you, I will ask you where we got to this tipping point of how you begin this move to what we label as the left. And these labels, I'm starting to choke on these damn labels. I got to be honest. But the New Deal, we could not call it the New Deal if it did not happen. It's history. We could not reference Jefferson and Madison and the founding of the party. We would not be able to reference them as fighting for the estate tax, the inheritance tax, and a progressive tax system if they did not do it in history to reference. If it did not happen, we could not reference. And you're going to notice here goes the voice. The voice is going up. I know Lisa Longo's listening. She's going to, I hope all the candidates are listening. We're going to have a speaking lesson now. We could not reference it in history if it did not happen. We're not pulling these ideas out of thin air. The progressive tax system is something that we had in the country. They fought for it. We had it. The New Deal happened. Kennedy fought for and got the Peace Corps. It happened. The moonshot was a governmental program. It happened. The Great Society happened. It cut poverty in half. It happened. These things happened. They are in our own history. When we label these things, even the word with all the positive connotations that a word like progressive has, and by the way, the first progressive was ran under the label of Republican, Teddy Roosevelt. He busted trusts. He broke up companies. He got the antitrust laws passed. He was the first progressive. We label these programs as progressive, and we try to think of them as something new. They are not new. We have done this before.
Amen.
As someone who has moved into these programs, as someone coming from a generation in their mid-20s and who has, thank the heavens above, has actually studied some history, when someone from even my generation in their 50s, or God forbid, even older, which I find even more mystifying, who are in their 60s or 70s in our own party, who says we cannot do these things
Preach.
when we have already done these things, when we have already done these things.
And
what say you?
God, you're so spot on that. Honestly, I'm about to walk into a voting booth and write your name in. My thing is,
But you see my question. You're in your
yes, I
20s.
do.
When
Yeah.
you are in a place in the party in our Commonwealth that I have been kept from and not allowed in. You walk into an executive boardroom and you're a voting member of state committee. I am not. When you are confronted with folks not just in their 20s who do not know their history, but when you are confronted with folks in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and sometimes even higher, and say, Cole, we cannot do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Of course we can do these things because we have already done them.
And we've already.
What do you say to those? What do you say to the people who stand in front of you and say, we cannot do these things, Cole? I would say we can do these things because we already have. Pick up a history book. But what do you say when you are confronted with those that, not?
Yeah.
What do you say?
And that's a point that I need to bring up more when I am asked that. And I thank you, Jeff, for saying that. What I say is, when are we going to start fighting, even for the things that we haven't done yet? When are we going to start fighting for our dreams? When are we going to start realizing that even for things we haven't implemented in this country yet, that we can make dreams a reality by actually fighting for people for those policies? So, and this goes with your transformation question. I'm tired of incrementalism. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of work. Listen, and I will sit down with any Republican, independent, libertarian, and talk to them about the issues and see if we can come to a compromise. I'll always stand by that. But on the national level, when is the Democratic Party going to actually start fighting for people? That's my question. When are we going to stop letting people like Mitch McConnell stall progress in this country? And when are we actually going to take the fight to them? So my answer to that, when people in our own party are like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do it because of that mentality of leadership. And that's why I personally respect leaders like Bernie and Elizabeth Warren when it comes to structural change, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
That was the train we were on. We were on the Elizabeth Warren train.
Yes, we were. And
train, you and me.
I think one of the biggest honors of at least my life is when I got the call where she accepted me to be one of her delegates. And even though she didn't make it, just being able, because that woman is possibly one of, I'm going to start gushing if I keep talking about Elizabeth Warren. So we'll get to that. But when are we going?
I'll have you as a co-host when I get her on the program. You help me get her on the program. I'll let you co-host with me that day. Help me get on the program.
Well, it's going to be one of the first days you see me cry. I'll tell you that right now.
Wait, you didn't cry when I invited you on the program?
I did. I did. You just didn't see it because we weren't on Zoom yet. But when are we going to start fighting for these policies? And there are some that, yes, they will be difficult to change the structure of this country.
But again, these are programs that we have already fought for.
But many of them are things that we've already fought for. Some already had, and even the ones we haven't, we need to start fighting for our dreams. We need to start fighting for future generations so they don't have to live in a country that is so structurally deficient. It's not even, it's reprehensible.
I would put it another way, and I put it this way a lot with candidates and quote unquote people on the street a lot. That is, if the wealth, first off, the wealth inequality situation that we have in the United States and planet wide, by the way, is worse now, he said stressfully, worse now than it was before the Great Depression. Period. End of story. I do not care what alternative facts you may be faced with, folks, wherever you are watching or listening. That is the truth. It is worse now. That said, try to think of it this way, if you would please. If the wealth inequality crisis that we have, there's a lot of crises in this country, folks. Don't let the word crisis overwhelm you, and don't let everything that is a genuine crisis make all the other crises seem lesser. Sometimes when you overuse a word, it tends to dull the effect of the word. Do not let the word crisis get dull in your psyche. The wealth inequality crisis, if we were to think of it in terms of, well, let me back up. Let me give you the statistic first. The 3 richest people in the United States have as much wealth as the bottom 160 million. There are roughly 330 million people in the United States. So that's 3 people with as much wealth as roughly 60% of the country. Now think of it this way. Cole will get this straight away, and then he's going to go use this. And I'm giving you, take this and use it.
Yeah, I'm going to use it.
What if we were to take that thought, and instead of wealth, financial wealth, monetary wealth, property wealth, we used food? What if 3 people in the country had as much food as was needed to keep alive 160 million people? It would be the French Revolution all over again. It would not be acceptable. People would be in the streets with whatever they needed to take into their hands to take the food back. I am not advocating that by any means. My point is, it would not be acceptable because people would do what is necessary to keep their families alive and fed. Therefore, why is it acceptable in a wealth context? What are your thoughts, sir?
It's not. It's not acceptable in a wealth context. But the reason it's become acceptable is because this is how this system is what has been ingrained into most of society to just believe that this is okay and this is right. So, the fact that 3 people, 3.
And if you extend that out planetary wide, it's about 400 people to the bottom to almost 2/3 of the planet.
The fact that we haven't had, and I'm not here calling for any violence, I never do. But the fact that we haven't,
neither am I. I'm simply trying to make an allegory of if we take that condition after 40 years of Reaganism, slicing taxes on the top 1%, even more so the top 1/10 of 1%, and we transfer it to something else that we never generally think of. And we try to contextualize it into that different era or area, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And think of it that way. It would be so fundamentally unacceptable. Then why do we accept it when it comes to money and wealth? Because we shouldn't.
We shouldn't, and I'm surprised. I'm half surprised, half not. But it is a surprise to me that, we have not had that societal revolution towards that idea. And I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that this year we could have got it with either Bernie or Elizabeth. I really, really did. Because exactly what you just said, Jeff, is what two of our major national candidates were saying as well. But I just don't understand why people are so content with that structure being in place. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have an answer for that. And that's one that I'm still trying to find an answer to. Why are you okay with this? And let's just be clear, it's not even just Republicans. Many in our own party are okay with that societal disadvantage that many are at. And many in our own party are also okay, even though they advocate not to be, of four people having 60% of the wealth in this country. So yeah, I honestly don't have that answer yet, and I am still trying to find it. It's either going to be that answer or the fountain of youth first. I'm not sure which one I'm going to find first, but I hope it's the answer to why people in our society are okay with standing by and letting that take place and be the structure of this country.
It's an interesting thought, though, isn't it? That we have, I think, 40 years of this, and arguably starting back into the Nixon administration, though not. Remember, the top marginal tax rate, even during the Nixon administration, by the way, into the Carter administration, because I make this fault too. We tend to look at Nixon as the last Republican president before Reagan, before the real transformation happened, the real seminal event.
Yeah, but you had 4 years in that it between there.
Well, right,
it was still being built to that Reaganism type of mantra. I hear what you're saying.
Well, that's my point. We tend to forget that the top marginal tax rate in the Carter administration was still 74%. So that if you earned anything more than what would be 4 million in current dollars, I want to say it's 4 million. I think it's 4 million, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Please do. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. 4 million in current dollars is only then, when you got to 4,000,001, did you get 74%. Because the right likes to say, do you really want to pay 74% on all your income? No, you don't. Nobody does. And nobody would. It's only after you hit that point.
Right.
You stop lying to everybody, because we do that really well.
Well, that's a whole nother topic, the misinformation campaign.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is there? First off, let me do this. We're at the bottom of the hour. You are listening to the Kennedy Effect for July 19, or 19 July, as we like to say in the UK. You're on wherever you are watching on Facebook. It is our home Facebook group, That Other Side of Information, where you will see the comments. I'm having conversations with folks over here on the Facebook side, including an interesting one with Rose Davis. That's where I'll see you are with Rosemary Davis. We might be getting into a tussle at the moment, actually, where you will see the comments, where I will see your questions and comments wherever you may be watching on Facebook. Thank you. We're just happy that you're with us. The program is here to educate and inform and engage you. So we're happy that you're with us wherever you may be watching. For our friends, family on the hot101.net side of things who are listening, thank you for being here. This is a whole new genre venture for hot101.net. breaking from the music for a little bit for a whole new side, whole new program. This is our second week on hot101.net, and we are thrilled to be there. Our thanks to DJ Lexus, DJ Earl, and my friend, partner, shaman, spirit guide, and all things positive in the world, April Riddick, for being on hot101.net. You can listen to hot101.net on the main webpage at, of course, hot101.net. You can listen on the hot101.net app. If you do not have the app, you can get it at the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or you can listen to hot101.net at the TuneIn Radio app. Cole, is there you talked about that I was right, which I'm happy to be right. Okay, even a blind squirrel finds a nut occasionally. That when you entered politics, you were more of a center left Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And that you have moved more toward the roots, what I consider to be the roots of the party, which are Jefferson, Madison, Roosevelt, because at least through today's lens, Teddy Roosevelt would be, Teddy Roosevelt is a New Dealer. Kennedy, Truman, Johnson. Is there one seminal event? Is there one news item? Did you wake up one day and say, I'm shifting this direction? Was it your Recorder of Deeds campaign that moved you? Was it those conversations in those old kitchens with those seniors that had never seen a campaign candidate before that moved you back toward the party's roots and maybe out of the center? How did that transformation happen for you? Is there one thing, or was it a gradual move? How would you say that happened? I'm assuming you've done some self-reflection. So
yeah, absolutely. I would say I have a top three. So first, this one's going to be very simple, but door knocking, especially in door knocking in impoverished neighborhoods. That was possibly one of the biggest eye openers, and where I learned a lot, not just what the struggles of the middle class in this country are going through, which is what everyone wants to seem to talk about, but what the lower middle class to our poor are going through as well. And it made me self-reflect and be like, why am I fighting for incrementalism? I need to stand up and fight for those policies that are going to drastically change the people I'm talking to right now, change their lives. Second, I would say being able to experience the campaigns of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I'm not just saying that to like fangirl over them or anything like that, but like really listening to what
say that when I had a big mouthful of
my bad
electronic stuff right here, Cole. Don't make
me being able to listen to them talk specifically about structural change and also how we can implement that in this country really opened my eyes to being like, they're right. They're right. As that with the joining of me being on the streets and meeting people who are suffering every single day, people who are going to work 3 jobs and are making paychecks just barely to be broke, that I was like, this is not right. And being able to see leaders like that talk about how we can fix our country, I would say I had a year-long gradual change into progressivism. And you know what? The third thing, and I don't know if he's watching right now. He may or may not be watching, but I ran with him for county office, and I got to give him a little shout out. Tim Butler.
I had a feeling you were going there.
Tim Butler was We would go
My political
back.
little brother.
Yeah. Well, we went to college
Because
together.
we fight like little brothers. We fight like brothers. That's why.
No, well, Tim and I went to college together. And we would go back and forth. And I will say, and I can self-reflect on myself. I used to be one of those people that were like, you know what, we can't do that. We can't make that change. But from those three things of running for office myself and experiencing firsthand the absolute poverty and the mispractice of justice in this country that's going on, to being able to watch leaders like Bernie and Elizabeth.
Yes, I think you signed into that other side of information.
Oh,
He's here. He is in a chat room.
yep.
So
A huge shout out to people around me like Tim Butler and others who for years were like, progressivism is what we need to do to change this country. Cole, let me sit down with you and talk to you for 2 or 3 hours, and let's talk about why we feel like this is the best way. Many people don't realize, and this is why I keep constantly putting stuff on Facebook, even though people may get tired of seeing it, because you never know who you're reaching. I'm sure Tim didn't know that 5-year long conversations were going to get me eventually to that place. So much so that 4 years ago, I told Tim, I was like, and he can attest to this too. I told him, I was like, I'll probably never vote for Bernie Sanders. I was like, I will never fill out my ballot and vote for Bernie Sanders. But having those progressive leaders continue those talks with people who just don't understand yet or haven't had that spiritual awakening moment themselves really helps. And I give a shout out to people like, Alex Dietrich, Tim Butler, who really, I watched them and I could see this is what we need to do to change this country. So those three things I would say gotten me to that spiritual moment.
How constructive or destructive do you believe the labels have become? Because even though the label progressive actually has a place in our history, again, Teddy Roosevelt was labeled a progressive, and he was one. He broke up the big trusts. He broke up, which we would now call conglomerates or monopolies. He was the first to break, he brought in the big tycoons and said, you are not going to control this and this and this and this. He established the national parks, banking regulations. And, he although he was a member of what was then I guess it's still the Republican Party. You can trace a lineage. It was not the Republican Party that we know now. He was a Republican. It's just not the Republican Party that we know now. How destructive or distracting, have we weighed ourselves down with these labels and titles? I certainly think that we've done it within our own party. I do think that the media likes to talk about this civil war that's happening inside the Democratic Party, and I do think that there is definitely some type of split. I do not think it is as ugly or as deep as the media might portray it. I think there is one. I just don't think it is as knives out, Wolverine claws out as the media might have folks portray it. But I do think there is a split. How deep or destructive, or perhaps even constructive, have these labels become, in your opinion?
I think I think the labels have been, and I hate to at all sound anywhere close to the current occupant of the White House right here, but I think the labels have really been perpetuated by the media. And that since the media is what flows around everyone, everyone's trying to grab on to one of these labels that are being thrown out. Whether you're a centrist Democrat, a progressive Democrat, a far left, Dem, a far right Republican. I try, and I fall into that trap too. Like I'm not like I have gone, saying, I'm progressive and such, but when it comes right down to it, I think you just have people who are how do I put this? You have people with different morals. I'm just gonna put it that way. And I
think progressive has been seized upon, sadly, to become a pejorative, sadly. And I definitely think that far left has really been seized upon. I don't think there is such a thing.
I don't think so either. I don't think you're far left if you want everyone to have Medicare. I don't think you're far left if you want a Green New Deal to save our planet.
If you look at the Scandinavian countries and you consider that to be far left, then I would look more at you than they.
Right. And I hope that there is a time in this country where we can get away from these labels. I understand that we will still have political parties. And I'm going to get in hot water by saying this, but I think we need more than two. But we need to start getting away from these labels and start getting to what issues are we fighting for together. It's not, as I just said, it's not far left to want environmental change. It's not far left to want to ban fracking in this state. That is not.
I actually want to be able to drink your water instead for me.
Right. That's not far left. That's wanting to help not just people, but help our Commonwealth and our country be better. So I think the labels are actually really a hindrance. And that's why when I was campaigning for recorder, whether I was in a deeply Republican area or deeply Democratic area, I'd always start out with, "Hi, I'm Cole Goodman. I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to talk to you about what I see as a problem in our county, and I want to hear what you think should be a solution. Not, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, so these labels are starting to hinder us from finding solutions in this country to make this country better."
I do think we get lost in that a little bit of the time. You bring up something interesting, and it's a rant, sadly, that I might make you suffer through, but we are not a parliamentary system. I watch something that if you do not watch, I would highly recommend it to you, because I think you would find it fascinating, and I think you would learn a lot from it. I recommend to the candidates that I consult for as part of Blue Collective that they do on a regular basis, because I believe they would learn a lot from it, both from an oratory standpoint and just a politics generally, and that's Prime Minister's Questions time in Parliament from the UK. I think it's something that the United States should adopt. Could you imagine if the president, not just the current occupant of the White House, but any president, had to go into the well of Congress and take questions? But if you watch Prime Minister's Questions, it displays the good and the bad of a parliamentary system. We do not have a parliamentary system here. There are benefits, there are drawbacks. Boris Johnson became prime minister of his country without a vote, and that's a drawback. But then again, he became prime minister because he became the head of his party, not because the population of his country voted for him to become the head of his country. That's a drawback. But then again, because his party does not have a majority, he had to form a coalition, a governing coalition, which means built-in compromise. That's a pro. So, and all parties get representation as long as they get a minimum threshold of votes. That's a pro. So our country is not set up that way, and perhaps we would get something more done if we were. That's a larger debate, sadly. So we have two parties.
Yeah.
One is bought and paid for, and the other is far from perfect. But at least there are some general policy points that we're working toward. Even if we don't agree on how to get there, at least we're pushing in one direction. And there are many shades of blue in our party, but at least if there are 10 policy points and we can agree on 6 of them, I'll take it. And I'm good to go. At least we're trying to get in that direction.
Yep.
Would you say that's a general
that's actually
way you hang, or
that's how I feel too, especially your last sentence of, if we can get 6 out of the 10 policies that we want done, of course we're gonna fight for the other 4, but we've got 6 passed. I just want to hit on something that you said. It's not even just, in my opinion, the political parties themselves that are and labels that are detriments to this country. It's who we put in those leadership positions, and for how long we put them in those leadership positions. We should have no one on either side of the aisle who is a U.S. senator for 15 or more years, in my opinion. We should have no one in Congress who has been there for 50 plus years, because on both sides of the aisle, and this is not to be ageist, this is just what is happening. Ideas become stale. Connection with the community and the country starts to disconnect. And when we put people in these positions, there's just this huge love fest, in my opinion, for people like Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi. And while they've done good things, and they've done some good things, these are people that have been in these seats for decades upon decades and have blocked and have scoffed at policies like Green New Deal, policies like Medicare for All, policies that will push this country, and as you said, Jeff, turn this country towards a good direction to be in. So yes, labels are for everybody. So labels are.
We seem to forget that from 1932 to 1980, people got rich.
Mm-hmm.
Huge corporations, worldwide corporations were built.
Mm-hmm.
Enormous conglomerates were built. It's not like we formed a flat society, or, as the right likes to use and demonize a lot, a communistic society where we all owned exactly the same thing and we all wore gray, coveralls, and we all had exactly the same house, and we all drove Larda Rivas, and we all people still got rich.
Now, if you get
companies were born, and
if you get a Larvarita, we're getting matching cars. I'm just letting you know that. And we're gonna rock that. I just wanted to let.
That was my Top Gear reference for the night. The Larvarita. That was my Top Gear. That was my British Top Gear reference for the night. If you never saw the Top Gear episode where Clarkson and May went to Eastern Europe and did a whole show on Eastern European cars, it was a brilliant one. But we didn't have a mono, I almost said monotheistic, but that's not the right word, but a mono-economic system. Mm-hmm. People got rich. We built huge corporations. Mm-hmm. From post New Deal. We still had what is generally referred to as a capitalistic society, although not pure capitalism, because we didn't make money from money. We made money from ideas and from industry and from businesses and from services. Capitalism, in its strictest definition, is making money from money. We tend to throw around the word capitalism, under a democratic system. We tend to throw around that word to mean generally a Western economic system, although capitalism in its strictest definition is making money from money, which is generally what we do now. Unregulated capitalism, numbers on a spreadsheet, click, drag, paste, multiply. The Fed throws trillions of dollars into the system, not real paper dollars, but money on a spreadsheet. That's capitalism. But Western economics we generally refer to as capitalism. Heavily protected and regulated capitalism post New Deal is what was needed to save Western economics from itself, and will be needed yet again to save it from itself. It was actually Prime Minister Johnson, I mentioned to Shivanya last week, it was actually Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the Conservative Prime Minister of the UK, who said in a speech that it will take Rooseveltian style policies to save the UK economy from the virus economic conditions. But it just seems to me that the term progressive, this is why I don't use progressive myself. I label myself a Kennedy Democrat, a New Deal Democrat, a Jeffersonian Democrat. I want to take the party back to its roots. The 90s were the aberration of our party. These conservative take money from the big corporate sources, turn your back on unions, turn your face toward Wall Street and welcome the big corporate money. Now, to a point, they had to do that because Reagan destroyed unions, which were always the traditional funding source for the Democratic Party. They had to do that to an extent. They didn't have a choice. They had to get their money from somewhere. But whether you're a fan of him or not, whether you like the messenger, the message is correct. Senator Sanders and Senator Warren and many other Democrats from that side, that edge, I shouldn't even say edge, but that shade of blue end of the blue rainbow, have shown us that regular folks from the street can fund a campaign. And we can accomplish these things. That's how you funded your campaign, if I'm not mistaken. It was also
not one dime from any corporate PAC, any corporations or anything. Just pure 15, 20. Sometimes, if made my day, someone put $100 in there of campaign contributions for the campaign. If I can just really bolster something you just said. The 90s is also where we started to fail when it comes to criminal justice and just bringing it to this civil rights movement that we're in this country right now. We are having to pick up the pieces of crime bills that were passed and voted on by Democrats, of mass incarceration because of, let's just be honest, for the most part, a plant that should be legal nationally. We are picking up the pieces and trying to fight systems, not just because of Democrats in the 90s, but
I was going to ask you about that one infamous post after we crossed the top of the hour and I reset, but
okay.
You keep going. I want to ask you about that one special post.
Yeah,
at the top of the hour after we.
Well, then we'll get to that. But I just want to just bolster what you said in that, not even when it just comes towards Reaganomics and economics, but
what? Go ahead. I'm sorry. The internet was starting to get dodgy on you. We're starting to robot.
Can you hear me now?
On me. Yeah, I got you. I'm sorry. I was worried. I was losing you.
But we are fighting to clean up the pieces of crime bills and a broken criminal justice system that was really pushed by many in our own party in the 90s and the late 80s. So like I just want to say you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that that is where I think that we started to lose our way. Really started to lose our way. I'm not saying it was just a sudden time, but that is where I think we really had the split in what is our party doing, you know?
That's, and again, I know I'm kind of beating the rug out here. I refuse to say beating a dead horse. I've been beating the rug here, beating the dust out of the rug for a long time on this topic, almost for what, a good half hour now. But we have done these things. That's the frustrating thing for me.
Mhm.
We are not talking about policies and programs and efforts and ways of thinking that we have not done.
Mm.
We're not talking about, I'm trying to think of something like completely, we're not talking about flying cars.
Right.
I might sound like a terribly silly example, but we're not talking about flying cars. We're talking about tried and true and tested and effective and just, we're talking about policies that have worked. We are in, if we are not in the textbook definitions of a depression, we're damn close to it. I mean, real economists, all you need to do is listen to Professor Richard Wolff when he's on with Tom Hartman every Thursday. My friends at Hot 101 may not be happy that I'm recommending you listening to something else, but you can listen to it on YouTube later at night if you're, or at a different point in the day or something that you may not be with Hot 101 or with me on the show here. Unemployment is not the number. The Dow is not the number. The markets are not the numbers. It's the labor participation rate. The labor participation rate is at its lowest since the Great Depression. And it's also income, real dollar incomes. That's why that wealth inequality number is so important. Great. Before the virus, because the numbers are all over the map now because of the virus. I'm furloughed because of the virus. I don't expect my company to survive. I don't know what's going to happen to me when the fall comes. I'll be lucky if I can hold on to the house. I suspect I'll file for bankruptcy. I'm this close to taking one of those shite $7 jobs. In the eyes of the government, I'll be employed. I will not make enough money to keep myself fed and housed.
And that's not employment.
So where does, technically I'm employed, but I can else. Where does that leave me? Well, I'm employed. I'm earning money. That $7.25 job might even have health coverage. Now, the co-pays might be through the roof. So I can't actually use the insurance, but I have it. So statistically, I'm good. But am I really in practice? No, not in any way, shape, or form. I'm underemployed, cannot afford anything, and I'm bankrupt. So in some statistics, I'm covered. I'm great. I'm middle class. In reality, I'm 10 seconds away at any one given time from homelessness. So where are we really? That's the key question you have to keep looking at. Are we, so when I say we are not technically in a depression, aren't we? Aren't we really? Aren't we really?
Even pre-COVID?
Because I'm telling you, I believe that in reality, We are. When 60%, 40%, when 40% of the country cannot handle a $400 emergency, if that doesn't sound like a depression to you, I do not know what does. When 60% of the country cannot handle a $1,000 emergency, if that does not sound like a depression to you, I do not know what does. We're at the top of the second hour. My guest is the Honorable, Distinguished Cole Goodman. Our home Facebook page is That Other Side of Information. That is where you will see all the comments, or where I will see your comments and questions. Wherever you may be watching or joining us or listening in the background on Facebook, whatever group or Facebook page you may be listening, we are just glad that you are here. But it is the home Facebook group page, That Other Side of Information, where we will see your comments and questions. There's a rather vigorous debate going on at that group right now. And for our friends and family at hot101.net, thank you for being here as we enter our second hour. You can listen to Hot 101 at the main website page, hot101.net. You can also listen on the apps. If you do not have the apps, you can get them. Hot101.net at the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, and you can also listen on the TuneIn Radio app. Just search for hot101.net. We are thrilled that you are here wherever you may be listening worldwide on our humble little third rock from the sun, planet Earth, the only planet that we have. I just want to say before I get to what is really one of the seminal Facebook posts that I have ever seen from you, Cole, is what we tend to forget, I think, about the Green New Deal is that the genius of it really is not the green part. It's the New Deal part. Because it uses the imminent global threat of the climate crisis to re-energize, reinstitute the policies of the New Deal, to re-energize, reset, and re-transform the economy. It uses the global climate crisis. It does not just solve or go a long way to solve the global climate crisis. It uses the policies of the New Deal to do so. And that's the real genius behind the Green New Deal. We can revisit the Green New Deal as we continue, but I want to use, as we enter this half hour, I want to ask you about one of the most powerful Facebook posts in a very active Facebook page. One of the real seminal Facebook posts from you that I have ever seen is the Facebook post of you being carried away from the protest in Harrisburg. I believe it was Harrisburg, which, considering how important of a post it was, you would think I would know exactly where Cole was. I tended to take my focus away from his writing as much as I was just dove into the picture itself. For our folks who are just listening on Hot 101 or who might just be listening on the Facebook in the background, I encourage you strongly to find Cole on Facebook and find this picture. I want to say it was the Harrisburg rally. You will correct me if I'm wrong. You had I believe, a young woman on what would have been your right, and there was a young gentleman holding you up on the left. Your entire head was covered in what I later read and found out was milk, because you had been shot with a pepper spray canister, I think, or one of the rubber. I don't want to say bullets. It was a pepper spray, and it wasn't a whole canister. It was a
Actually,
what's the word? There's the picture. You'll see, right? That you'll see if you're watching the Zoom and you're with us on Facebook. Cole's holding up the picture into the Zoom camera. If you're with us on Hot 101, I strongly encourage you to find Cole Goodman on Facebook. If you and you'll see on his Facebook feed the picture. It is. I got lost in that picture, and I did read the caption. I'm blanking on the caption at the moment because the picture, you tend to get lost in the picture. When I had asked you earlier in the interview what the seminal moment for you was to move from the center deeper into the roots of the party from a policy standpoint, I would have laid a shiny penny that it was that. So tell me about that moment. And I was corrected. I end up being corrected. But tell me about that moment and your subsequent activities in the demonstrations following the murder of George Floyd.
So seeing that video of George Floyd, especially as a black man myself, really, I haven't come up with an adjective for how it made me feel, but it made me feel so strongly that I went and with about 6,000 people, or it wasn't 6,000, excuse me. It was probably around at least 2,000 people that came out to Harrisburg for the first protest, to protest against police brutality and for equity and justice in this country. We were on State and Forester Street in Harrisburg. Front and Forester Street in Harrisburg. And I am an advocate of peaceful protest. I am an advocate of, making sure that
I'm not laughing at you. I hear that. I'm just hearing that.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that unmistakable beagle bark in the background. It's not people who might be seeing us, on Facebook, and like Cole's in this deep description and I'm giggling. It's not, I promise, I'm not laughing.
Yeah.
That unmistakable beagle bark. That was very ill-timed giggling on my part. That was bad. That was very bad.
No,
that looked really bad.
I think that's why you were giggling.
But if for any of you, wherever you may be listening or watching, if you have a beagle, that bark. It is unmistakable.
Yeah. And
I apologize, Cole.
I knew that's why you were giggling. That's okay.
Very ill-timed.
So I would say about 98% of the protesters that were there ready to peacefully protest, to peacefully march.
And I should say, you are an unequivocal advocate for peaceful protest. I mean, there's not even a hair's breadth of anything else. You are a 100% unequivocal advocate for peaceful protest.
For peaceful, nonviolent protest, and no one can change my mind on that. However, I do understand the Dr. King quote when he said, "A riot is the language of the unheard." So I don't want it to seem like I am not understanding of the frustrations that people are feeling. My personal belief is that peaceful protest is the most effective protest. 97% of the protesters that were there that day were there to be peaceful. We actually had quite a few people who came from other cities to be violent, to throw bricks at cop cars, to throw flags through cop car poles, cop car windows. And this, I'm getting to how I got sprayed. I stood with about 5 other people while protesting police brutality, stood in front of a police officer with my hands up to protect him and her. There were actually two behind me, from bricks and from objects being thrown at them and causing them harm. Now, people on the call are probably going to be like, why would you do that? You're out there protesting, against police brutality, but then you're going to stand there and protect the police. We will not get to the places and the reforms that we want to see through violence. And I believe that day, I believe that today, and I believe that tomorrow, and I believe that forever. Then our state police arrived. And our state police did not, and the cops I was standing in front of were actually our local HPD, Harrisburg Police Department. Our state police arrived, and they did not give one iota who you were or what you were doing. They came out with their batons, with their spray cans of pepper spray and mace, and just sprayed us all. I was standing right next to a woman. She's one of my elders. Her name's Elizabeth Hall. Great progressive activist in the region. They sprayed her so hard directly in the eyes that she had to go to the hospital, and to this day is having breathing problems because as a result. I got sprayed. I couldn't see. I was dizzy. I couldn't breathe. People were just coming up to me, pouring all types of milk on my face. I promise I tasted every single type of milk under the sun that day, whether it was almond, skim, 2%, half and half. I had it poured on my face. But what really got me was, and in the picture that you guys just saw, is a young man. I was on the ground. I was laying on the ground because I couldn't breathe. Took me by the arm, put my arm around his shoulders, and said, "We're not losing any more black men today. We're not losing any more black men because of what they did today." And took me and carried me from Front Street all the way basically to the Capitol building, out of harm's way. That moment for me, and this is why I didn't answer the question as being, that moment didn't make me more, let's say, a Kennedy Democrat, or more, as the common colloquial phrase, progressive. That's not what that moment did for me. What that moment did was light a fire under me to make sure that my future generation and our future generations didn't have to be out here peacefully protesting and getting sprayed over these problems that we've been seeing since the 60s. So since then, I've been proud to be one of, not the only one of, that's key, the leaders in the Black Lives Matter movement, but also in Central PA, South Central PA, but also one of the leaders of bringing police reform, not just to our state level or national level, but to our local municipalities, bringing de-escalation training to our state police so they don't have to get out of their trucks with their batons and their pepper spray and feel like that's the best way to de-escalate a situation. Making sure that there are police advisory and review boards across this state. So that moment of that man picking me up and bringing me to safety and just whispering in my ear when I had all this mace, all this milk running down my face, just whispering, "We're not going to lose anyone today, and I am here with you," showed me that we are all a team from a humanistic standpoint in this fight, whether Black, white, Asian American, LGBTQ plus, trans community. We all have to say in one voice, Black Lives Matter, because all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. So that's what that moment did for me. It lit the man behind you, his grave has an eternal flame. And now I have an eternal flame inside me that will not be put out, in making sure that everyone in this country has justice, equity, fairness, and can live in a country where they are seen not as half a person, not as someone that I can just beat on the street or hold my knee on their neck until they can't breathe, but as someone who is my fellow human being, and we are going to live in a society together that we can make better.
Tell me, I believe your caption from that picture, if I'm remembering correctly, is that you didn't know the young man who had picked you up and carried you away from there. I can only assume since then that you have found out who that is.
I found him when I put out that post, because when I put up that, first of all, I didn't even know that the picture got taken because I couldn't see. I was blinded for a good probably like 20-25 minutes.
Yeah, I'm thinking in that moment you're not exactly stopping and posing for.
No, right? No, not posing for a photo. I'm just.
We're not stopping for selfies at that.
Right, exactly. Right. So first I didn't know that picture had been taken, but when I put it up, I did not expect, and I hate using this word because it has such, I didn't expect it to go as, let me put it this way, as far wide as it did.
Mm-hmm. And it did. It blew up pretty good.
Yeah, and with people commenting saying, "Oh my gosh, that touched my soul," but that's actually one of the reasons I did put it up. So people saw that even when you're peacefully protesting, you can be subjected to police brutality at any time. It's not just when people like to be like, "Oh, well, just don't commit crimes and you won't have to deal with it." No, this happens in every situation, scenario, and disproportionately happens to people of color in this country as well.
Tell me what you are comfortable telling me
Sure.
about your parents, because they fit into this, and I'm backing my way into that. Actually, no, wait, I'm sorry. So you found the gentleman that held you.
Yes.
I can only assume you formed a friendship.
Absolutely. And it was a very emotional phone call when I did find him. And quite honestly, for the first 15 minutes of the call, we just cried. We just cried. And then all I could say to him was just, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." And that is definitely going to be a friendship that lasts long.
Probably not the only demonstration that you've been to together, I'm guessing.
I've definitely seen him at others personally. Last week, I was probably my 22nd protest that I've done since the tragic death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Tamir Rice and Sandra Bland. But one thing I've been telling you, we can't stop. That's the thing. Like, the measly reforms that the Republicans are trying to pass through with their Justice Act, until we get tangible reforms that will be effective, we can't stop marching in the streets. And we can't stop marching everywhere. I've taken great pride in marching in Northern Dauphin County, which has never had any type of social justice, Black Lives Matter type protest. And yes, when we go up there, I get called a nigger. I get called a porch monkey. I get called a coon. I get monkey sounds when I'm walking by. But many in the community are like, "Thank you for coming up here because we really need it." So yeah, definitely, we just got to keep protesting and keep protesting everywhere, no matter where you live.
And these are demonstrations, by the way, that have continued to happen globally.
Yes.
There were demonstrations, as a keen follower of what happens in Europe and the UK, while we continue to throw rocks at each other about whether you can or cannot kneel here, as a keen, not just a keen follower, but a devoted, loyal, and religious follower of the Premier League. When the Premier League returned from...
Wait, who's your team?
Manchester United. Yeah, Manchester
Me
United.
too.
Yeah, all that is good and glorious in this world flows.
Absolutely. Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs. Yep, absolutely.
Manchester, yeah, it's one of the great it is one of the great dichotomies in me, among many. Manchester is red. The Democrats might be the blue party, but Manchester is red.
Yep.
And I usually wear. The reason I did not wear my kit top today is because they took a thumping today. By the way, they took an absolute hammering today in the FA Cup final.
I wasn't going to mention.
Yeah, I hope I didn't ruin it for you, but they took a thumping today. Chelsea just absolutely put a thump to them today.
Yeah,
first loss in 17, 18. First loss in 17 or 18. First loss since the return from COVID guidelines, stay-at-home guidelines in the UK. When the Premier League returned and the players went to the league and said, we want to take a knee, we want to have our names stripped from the kit, we want to have Black Lives Matter on the back of the kit, and the league said, yep, good, no problem, done. We didn't have a shouting match back and forth. We didn't have that's unpatriotic or you're disrespecting, you're this, you're that, you're whatever. The league said, great, yeah, good, no problem, whatever you need. The prime sponsor, some of you who are here every week will remember me talking about this. The prime sponsor of the league is Barclays Bank, one of the biggest banks on the planet, who will have their logo on the sleeves of every jersey in the league, removed their own logo in favor of a Black Lives Matter patch, which is there for the remainder of the season. At a minimum, it possibly into next season, removed their own corporate logo and said, yeah, put it right here. We'll take our logo off. You put it right there. No discussion, no arguments, no throwing mud at each other about who's more patriotic and you're disregarding this. And, well, if this lives matter, well, then that one must, and this and that and the other. They just did it. There was no discussion. There was no arguments. They just did it. I talk a lot on this program. I talk very, very often on this program about how we can learn from Europe. We are not superior. There's a lot we could learn from Europe. The real strength is when you can look at yourself and say, hey, maybe we can do it better. Maybe we can learn and improve. There's no weakness in that. It's not unpatriotic to say we could learn, that we could do better.
Right.
Goodness gracious.
Right.
Anyway, tell me what you're comfortable about letting to the audience about your parents and how this fits in to the protests and demonstrations that you're taking part in.
Well, I'll start with my mom because she's one of the most fascinating women that I have ever known. I mean, she's my mom, of course I know her. But just
I'd hope.
Right. But been able to, just interact with and honestly not just be a son, but be a mentee. My mom is a former vice president of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. And she also, and that's why we were in Europe, but she also manned the Middle Eastern Bureau Desk of NPR, and has, and this is the part that always fascinates people about my mom. And honestly, I don't know how she did it myself. My mom would used to go and interview martyrs and terrorists and get their side of the story of why they feel they are having a jihad against the United States. And has written 2 books about it, both published. One is a bestseller in Spain. Being able to grow up watching my mom go speak with the people that in this country and many countries are like the spawns of Satan. But having a mom who was like, I don't agree with them, but I want to document where they're coming from so we can understand why this is happening. that's really translated into my personality today. Not with terrorists, because I don't have as big as balls as my mom. But when it comes to understanding opposite opinions and sides. So my mom's also been involved in local politics. She worked for Mayor Papenfuss, the mayor of Harrisburg, and now she's the editor-in-chief of the opinion section of the Patriot News and Penn Live. My dad, so we both my mom and I, when she hasn't been in the journalism field, we both are like politics. And that leads me to my dad, who is one of the smartest men that I know. He's actually a pastor, a former lawyer, and a former editor-in-chief at a logistics company. But what's interesting with my dad is that I would label him as one of the more progressive pastors in the Methodist denomination. And definitely one of the pastors in South Central PA who has started to take a stand, or not started to, but is taking a stand for Black Lives Matter, for civil rights, for civil justice, because the church historically has missed the mark on almost every social movement that has come across in this country and around the world. And I'm really proud to have a dad who's joined with other pastors like Chris Sledge and who are really starting to be a voice and taking a stand for that. So those are my parents. Great folks. I mean, just great folks. You should have my mom on the show. She would. Oh my gosh, you guys would. Oh man, actually, you know what?
Yeah, actually, no, especially now after the Trump regime made their changes at Voice of America. I imagine she must be really on fire about that. Yeah, they put the corporate another corporate donor at the head of another government agency. Yeah, she must be quite on fire about what has happened to Voice of America.
Yep, and that started, if I may, that actually didn't even just start in the Trump administration. In the Bush administration,
yes,
that's when they started to politicize, yes. As we say in Czech, Radio Sloboda Evropa, Radio Sloboda. So yeah, and Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. So yeah, absolutely, and it's sad because people really rely on that news in countries where they're not able to attain free press. So yeah, it's quite sad.
I know that you have to leave in about what would you say, 7:45 ish or sooner. You are actually off to another demonstration.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
So 7:45. So let me just. I would imagine another question will pop into what small bits of gray matter remain in this rather empty head. But before any other questions pop into my brain, I want to make sure that I leave you plenty of time, as we are at the bottom of our third. We're into our third hour, but at the bottom of the hour, I want to make sure that I leave you plenty of time for people to. How do people find you? How do they reach you? What different social medias? How do people contact you? How do they follow you? What is the best way? Where do they find you? If you even want people to find you at that point? But I mean, what are the best ways for folks to, where do we get to all things Cole Goodman? And I'm not going to schedule you here on the air with tens of thousands listening worldwide, but you owe us all, myself, Becky, Hillary, April, Oren, probably, Matt Muncie, many more, Mike Laws, many more names that I can't even think of, who are going to be mad at me for not thinking of them. You owe us a visit to Lehigh Valley, sir. See Center City, Bethlehem, and have a look around, and come for, now we're open up a little bit, that we can get out a little bit, safely, masks on safely, that we can get around, and try to socialize a little bit. I know we're going to be heading into campaign season, but it is summer. We can take a couple minutes for ourselves to take a deep breath, and have a little personal time. So you owe us a visit here. I won't pin you down to a date live on the air, but just don't forget, you owe us a visit. You need to bring the girlfriend, get a dog sitter.
Yep, absolutely, I will.
It is a relatively easy drive, actually, from Harrisburg.
Yep.
Straight
babe, we're going to the Lehigh Valley. She said, okay.
It's a straight shot. It's actually an easy drive. It really is. But tell everyone, all the folks listening, following on Facebook, and all of our hot101.net family, how do they follow all things Cole Goodman?
Sure. So I pride first. Facebook is the avenue where I pride myself on my page of having, as you do on this show, of having all different opinions, being able to comment, say what you think, of course, keeping it respectful and constructive. But if you want to get in touch with me really, really quickly, friend me on Facebook. My name's Cole Goodman. I'm one of the few Cole Goodmans out there, except I am friends with a Cole Goodman in Illinois. And the only reason we became friends is because we're both named Cole Goodman. And now we're actually really good friends. But you can friend me on Facebook, definitely. If you'd like to get in touch with me from a Democratic Party executive board, state committee, elected avenue, you can definitely I'll definitely give out my email. I have no problem doing that. My email is cgoodman11007 at gmail.com. cgoodman11007 at gmail.com. So those are the two main avenues that if you want to get in touch with me, please let me know. If you have any Black Lives Matter or any social justice things going on in your area, that's at least in the state of Pennsylvania, I would love to attend. But if you want to just have vigorous debate and get your thoughts out there in a constructive manner, not only do you have to listen to the other side of information, but you're welcome to friend me on Facebook under Cole Goodman, and I would be happy to have you.
And if you want an impassioned speaker, I will tell you that when Cole flips it into the right gear, it is an impassioned speech coming at you. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. When I've seen you speak a couple times, and it definitely you've broke into preacher territory. It gets wound up there. It gets
my dad's
It gets wound up there. It gets in there. It gets wound up. There's no question about it. I would also say, if I may, if it doesn't sound, dare I say, if it doesn't sound too preachy, be careful out there. Absolutely. Just please be careful out there, my friend, because there are counter protesters out there. There are counter protesters out there who are out there simply to get a message out, and they're respectful, and they stand. We had a Black Lives Matter protest here in Hellertown. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. There was one gentleman who sat across the street in a lounge chair, or in a chair. He had one sign. He never made a sound. He just sat there with his sign. He was a counter protester. He was as polite and as humble and as wonderful as a counter protester could be. We offered him water. We offered him something to eat. He said, no, thank you. I'm okay. And he was as kind and polite and as gentle as you could possibly want. And that was the genuine spirit of debate, of point counterpoint, as you could possibly hope. And there were some who were just begging for somebody to take a swing. They wanted that to kick off. And I don't have to tell you, I don't have to preach at you. I don't have to play on the fact that I'm twice your age and try to make it seem like I'm, telling you something you don't know. You have seen the ugly side of it. So I just beg you from my heart, from my friendship for you, my affections for you, please, I beg you to be careful out there. Keep doing the Lord's work, because you're doing it, but be careful. Just I beg you, be careful.
And I really appreciate that. And if I can make a kind of semi-closing statement, if that's okay.
No, the floor is yours. I know you need to head off to yet another demonstration, but the floor is yours, and we'll open up the phone lines after Cole heads off to for his yet another demonstration.
I want to impress upon. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for having me on, Jeff.
Well, the door's open to you because Shivani already asked to come back, so we're gonna have to open the doors. Maybe I'll have the two of you on that time, and we'll break open for the 4 hours.
Well, I'm saying on air right now, I will be coming back to the other side of information. So
did I tell you it was going to be easy? Did you even notice? You've been here for 3 hours. Did you notice? No. Actually, no. You were having trouble getting in, but still, you know what I'm saying. It was. Did you notice how quick the time went? I told you it was going to be easy. It's just a conversation. That's all it is. We're having a conversation.
Absolutely.
But again, the floor is yours. I jumped on you. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
The floor is yours.
I said this earlier in the talk, but we have to start fighting for our dreams. And we have to stop, to everyone listening. We have to stop electing people who don't give a crap about us. And I can't stress that enough. We are on the precipice of change in this country. Everyone out there, don't stop. Don't stop doing what you're doing. Whether that's getting, opinions from the other side of information and then going back into your communities and, and preaching the good word, that's what we need you to do. We need you to also call your elected officials and hold them accountable. And if they are not reflecting where you think this country should go, we need every single person. I'm sure every single person on this call is. We need you to get out and vote. If you don't vote, you don't have any right to complain. That is my personal belief. So if you are not registered right now, I need you to get on your phone. You can register by phone. I need you to get registration from your county elections office and get ready to vote. And if I could leave you with one quote, if anyone remembers anything from what I said today, this is the one quote that I'd love to leave you with.
I would say the U.S. Census as well. Fill out the census.
Fill out the census. Absolutely. We have to stop having moments in this country. We have to keep having movements. We have to stop having moments. We have to keep having movements. We have to make sure that we don't get in the cycle, especially when it comes to criminal justice. Black man or woman getting killed by police. We talk about it for a few months, and then it all goes away until the next person is killed. That cycle's done, y'all. We have to start getting these policy changes from across the board, not even just criminal justice, but across the board, passed in this country, and getting leaders that actually want to lead us and not be in corporate sellouts. So I don't even know who all is on this call. I've seen a few people, but I love everyone out there. Jeff, I love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for hosting the show and putting your time in on your Sunday to getting out the good message. And I know as probably a host, you don't get told that, probably not nearly enough as you should. But thank you.
I got a big whomping ego, Cole. That's part of why.
Well, you don't show.
I love radio. That's why I do it. I got a big, huge ego. That's part of why I do it.
Well, thank you for doing it. And thank you for keeping up the good fight. And I love seeing you at state committees or around. And you're right. I owe you a trip to the Lehigh Valley, and I will be there, and I will be back on this show.
I got to tell you, when we get back to a point where we can have safely, where we can have state committee in person again, I want to do this show from state committee.
Yes. That would be so awesome.
I want to have the big players, when they're standing 20 feet away from me, and say, Senator, Chairwoman, Chairperson, Caucus Head, senator, representative, so on, so on, so on, so on, and have good folks like you or Alex, or because Alex will be perfect at it, you know who I'm talking about, will be able to, Senator, Jeff Kennedy's live on the air over there. Would you like to talk to him for 10 minutes? Let them say no while I'm live on the air. Let them come and say no.
Let's do it.
Because they won't be able to, because I'll be live. And let's talk to people. Let's educate. And again, I think you said something very important, because I know that I have Republicans that watch the show. If they're not live, they watch it later. This is the thing. We can still have these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
The current occupant of the White House can tell you, and the entire right-wing hate media machine can tell you whatever they want to tell you. We can still have these discussions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We may not agree at the end of the day. And sadly, because of the polarization that we're facing, we probably won't.
Mm-hmm.
But we can have the discussion.
And I will sit down anywhere with anyone, of course, masking up, to talk about these issues.
Within 6 feet. At 6 feet with a mask, we can have these discussions.
Right. I mean, I've been on State Street in front of the Capitol and had an hour-long conversation with a skinhead on race. I'll sit down with anyone, because these are the conversations that will, I believe, open up people's eyes. And really, and you said a lot of Republicans tune into your show, and I want to send them just a quick message, and then I
more than are willing to admit it. Yeah.
Well, for any of our Republican counterparts / colleagues watching and listening, we are not in a political moment in this country. We're in a moral moment. So I need the Republicans that are listening that aren't swept up in the Trump media to really dig down deep to their moral, even though these were flawed men, I'm not saying they aren't, but they're moral John McCain's and Mitt Romney's, which I disagree with them on many policies. But these are men that have tapped into their morality and said, this is not right. We need you to tap into the same thing, because not just when it comes to Black Lives Matter, but towards all policy, and especially this election, we're at a moral moment in this country, and we need you guys to stand up for what's right.
Cole Goodman, I think that is probably the perfect, just be the perfect way to end. You know what? I'm going to trade you a quote. Remember this when you go out, because you're doing this, you're living this, but I'm going to leave you with this anyway. Even though this quote is specifically references the moon shot, I think we can and should carry it through the rest of our lives, because you're living it. I try to live it, although people would tell you that what I'm doing, I'm sitting in a chair. How hard is that? I'm speaking into a microphone. How hard is that? We're trying to have the hard conversations, right? We're trying to teach. We're trying to educate. Again, what's the tagline for the show? It's educate, inform, and engage, right? We're trying to do the hard things here. We choose to go to the moon at the end of this decade and do the other things. And do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I love that.
And that is what this country is supposed to be about. This is the country that did the hard things. It fought a revolution. It built a society on Athenian democracy. It won 2 world wars. It fought a civil war. It nearly tore itself apart, but yet somehow kept itself together.
Mm-hmm.
It is built on an original sin. It is. But eventually overcame it. And it is not perfect. Remember, the Constitution itself says to build a more perfect union.
Yeah.
Not built as a perfect union, but to form a more perfect union.
Yep.
So we can do these things.
Yes.
Many because we have done them already, we simply need to return to them. And the other things we will work toward. So you are heading out to do exactly that. I beg you to please stay safe. And the door is open to you, sir. If you are not here as a guest, I beg you to listen live.
Absolutely.
And you call us on the phone number, and we can always stimulate the debate that way. So go be
Thank
safe, my friend.
Good
And then you
seeing
come visit.
Absolutely. I'll see everyone later.
That's Cole Goodman, and everybody, he's off to yet another demonstration. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it all. He's half my age, so he's got a lot more stamina than I certainly couldn't keep it up. This broken body could never do all of that. I don't know how he does it all. But what a great, I hope you enjoyed that, because he's genuinely a friend, and he really, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, he really does it. He does it. You talk about putting your money where your mouth is, as a tired cliche, dare I say. He's really doing it. I mean, he is really, really doing it. And he left. I think we could have kept talking probably for most of the night, but he left because he's off to yet another demonstration. And, sadly, we didn't get into what's next. But I think if I were to try to put myself in his shoes, I think the reason he continues to demonstrate is to continue to keep these issues front and center, to bring them to people, to say, look, we're still here. These issues, the systemic issues that face us, are still here, and we can do better. We talk all the time. The candidates that I work with will tell you that they are sick of me saying a lot of the same things, and one of them is that we can do better. We are better. And that's one of the things that Cole demonstrates about, he talks about, is that we, at the end of the day, underneath it all, we are all the same. Simply a shade of skin color cannot be the thing that really tears us apart and divides us, when really at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We have to be better than this. There's got to be more to us than this. There has to be. We can't be broken down as simple as billionaires paying millionaires to tell what's left of the middle class that it's people of different shades, that they are the enemy. It can't be that. We've got to be better than that, for God's sake. We've got to be better than that. I can't fathom the fact that this is all we've been reduced to. When you cannot feed your family, when you cannot afford to send your kids to school, when they are sick, ill, or have a broken bone, and you cannot take them to the doctor, is it really the fact that the person standing next to you may have a different shade of skin, that's the single worst thing that's going on in your life? I can't imagine that that's all that we've come down to. We've got to be better than that. I can't imagine that's all that we are. We've got to be better than that. I would hope that watching the vigorous discussion that was going on in the chat, that there'll actually be some phone calls tonight. I will open the phone line. Anyone that wants to call and be part of the conversation, you are welcome to do so now. The phone number is on the screen. If you are still watching on Facebook, we are still live. You are welcome to call us. 267-227-9189. We will play it just like we did last week. If we have phone calls, the show will continue. If we do not, then we will not. 267-227-9189. The phone number for the show is 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. You can call, be live on the air, have a discussion with me, ask a question, voice an opinion. This is a family show. You will not swear. We won't have it. Family show. None of the 7 forbidden words. Please. 267-227-9189. We've had 2 super initial weeks on Hot 101. Wherever you may be listening to us on Hot 101, the main website, either of the apps or through the TuneIn app, we're thrilled that you are here. If you are interested in advertising on the show, you can do that. Drop us an email. ThatOtherKennedy, all one word, ThatOtherKennedy@gmail.com. ThatOtherKennedy@gmail.com. and we can discuss the opportunity for you to advertise on the program. You could probably actually send us a question there as well. I hadn't actually thought about that. I actually put advertising instructions up behind us, although I realize the mic is actually blocking it. I will have to find a new way and place to hang those and make those a little easier to read. That was a new thing I tried this week, so hopefully that might work, or you might be able to see it. I will find a new place to hang those. Always a work in progress, always a room for improvement. We're just human beings here. We're fallible. Sometimes we make mistakes. I'll find a new place to hang it next week. There's also instructions back here on where you can listen to us on Hot 101. You can always listen at the main website, hot101.net. You can listen through the apps, Hot 101 at the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or through the TuneIn app. For those of you watching on Facebook, you can send questions or comments there. I will see them, take them, read them, answer them, have a discussion. Or if you are not at our home group page, I will not see your comments, but we are happy that you are with us anyway. Anywhere that you might be on Facebook watching the show, either live or if you watch it in a recorded version, we're just thrilled that you're here. We're honored that you're here. The show continues to grow and expand. And hey, that's why we're here. That's what we look forward to. It's why I started it. It's why April believed in me enough to help me start it. And we've gained the confidence, cooperation, and I'm honored and thrilled to have the confidence and belief of the folks at Hot 101, DJ Lexus and DJ Earl. And I'm watching the software Hot 101 continue to tick away as we are on their airwaves as well. So wherever you are listening, we're thrilled that you're here. We're happy that you're here. We're honored to have you here. You can you can call us live and speak to us live on the air if you are so inclined. 267-227-9189 as we approach the top of the hour. Really thrilled that Cole was here and Shivanya the week before. Important issues. These issues are not going away. This is going to continue to plague us. I hate to use the word plague. It's such a terrible connotation, but it is what it is. I also wanted to get into, I don't want to dismiss everything that we discussed with Cole, but if you have been keeping an eye on the news this week, something that has not received nearly the coverage that it should have is the use hardly even serious enough a word, the deployment of federal troops, federal officer. They're not being called troops generally by the media. They should be. In Portland, Oregon. These are federal police troops, basically, that the White House, the regime deployed to Portland. And if you've read any of the accounts of folks who live in Portland, and my niece lives in Portland, some of the accounts are absolutely shocking. They're just genuinely shocking and frightening. If you have not read any of them, I strongly encourage you to do so. They are police. They are largely ICE, DHS police forces that are uniformed to look like military. They are largely, if not exclusively, unmarked. They don't have name badges. They do not have law enforcement badges. They do not have markings of any kind. Their vehicles are largely unmarked. They are patrolling an area outside the boundaries that they were originally designed to patrol. They are pulling up in unmarked vans, grabbing people off the streets. They are grabbing anyone dressed in dark clothes. They are grabbing people who are protesting or sometimes not protesting, simply based on the way they are dressed or based on the color of their skin. What is happening in Portland currently, if it were happening in any other nation on earth, in any previous administration to this one, we would call dictatorial, we would call it totalitarianism. The UN has already called for it to stop. It is nothing short of dangerous. And if it is not stopped or decried loudly enough, it will come to a city near you. This is just a beginning. The only possible good thing about it is that it is happening toward the middle end of July in an election year. Although don't think that some of the subcontext of this is not to stop the vote. I suspect that might be part of it. If this were happening in 2017 or 2019, I would be even more worried about it, that we would have yet another full year for additional cities to be the next target. But since we are heading into a national election just August, September, October, November, 3.5 months away, I'm not sure how much worse this can get, because I actually don't know if they have the manpower. I'm not as worried that this will go nationwide, but however you want to look at it or try to spin it, it's not good. There is a petition online, at least here in Lehigh Valley, to sign to impeach Governor Wolf. I find it highly entertaining. I find it also a living embodiment of hypocrisy. If the impeachment of Mr. Trump was illegal, unconstitutional, and the overturning of a legal election, as the right would have you believe, then I don't see why. And Republicans in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania were up in arms with, skin peeling off of them, flames shooting out of their eyes. I don't see why this impeachment would be any different. They are exactly the same thing. But then again, hypocrisy is always a winner. I'm waiting for the Second Amendment folks who hoard guns as a way to protect themselves from an overreaching and dictatorial government to take on the streets, to come out onto the streets of Portland in mass numbers. I'm sure they will be on the streets anytime now. Waiting on that. Don't worry, Portlanders. They will be out to protect you any moment. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. We are at 8:03. Kind of an odd time to end, seeing no calls come in. We'll try to carry on here for a few more minutes. If we don't get any calls, we'll wish you a peaceful week. But those are just some of the issues that I would wish you to take a good look at this week. Virus cases continue to spike. I have never seen, I continue to be just gobsmacked at the fact that wearing masks continues to be such a political issue. I was reminded by some of my friends online that there was actually an anti-mask movement in 1918 during the flu pandemic of 1918. There was an anti-mask movement then as well. Many of the anti-maskers passed away then as well. I would again, I believe I mentioned this last week, and I would remind you again of it at the risk of being repetitive. This is science. This is science. Science is flawed. Science is by nature experimental. Science is by nature corrective. There was a time that science taught us that the earth was the center of the universe and that everything in the heavens rotated around the earth. Not just the sun and other planets, but all the stars and galaxies. As we continued to study, we realized that the earth was just another planet in a solar system of other planets that rotated around the sun. But certainly our sun was different than all the other suns, and that everything else rotated around our sun because our sun was the one that had our planet. No, we continued to study and learned that our sun was really quite unremarkable. It was just a sun. Well, certainly our solar system was unique because it was the only one that harbored life. No. A meteorite crashes on planet. We cut it open and we find microbes in it. Right now, there's bacteria growing, living, and dare I even say, thriving on the outside of the International Space Station. Now, this is not an endorsement or advertisement for little green men, but surely the fact that we have found life forms here on Earth that can live in space at near absolute zero temperatures, deprived on end, that can live without oxygen for years on end and then return to an oxygen environment and simply revive themselves. Surely we cannot be the only life in the galaxy. We may not even be the only life in the solar system. And if we are not the only life in the solar system, surely we cannot be the only life in the galaxy. If we are not the only life in the galaxy, surely we cannot be the only life in the universe. What is my point? My point is that science is always changing and evolving. We are always learning. How does that relate to this virus? The virus is a novel virus, novel being new. New being we don't know a lot about it. New being we don't know a lot about it. There have been various studies that show that this virus might cause lung scarring, permanent lung scarring. There are patients who have lost their senses of smell and taste because of this virus. 3-4 months out, still have not regained it. Patients who are otherwise testing virus-free and are quote-unquote cured of the virus, but have still not regained their senses of taste and smell. The UK is studying patients who have quote-unquote been cured of the virus, but are showing signs of early dementia and brain scarring. With so many unknowns and so much yet left to learn, is a mask such an impediment upon you? a mask? Well, I don't want to wear a mask. Freedom. What if I decided a red light at a traffic signal was an impediment upon my freedom? It's an impediment upon my freedom to speed through the intersection. Does that mean it's part of my freedom to kill the pedestrian? I continually find this mask argument just fascinating. I'm absolutely gobsmacked by it. I've never seen anything like it. I'm fascinated by it. Just sociologically, I find it fascinating. I don't even know what to make of it. It makes me cringe. It makes me fearful for society. That something so simple. I hate wearing a mask. I'll tell you the truth. I hate it. When I'm out in public, if I walk into a store and the sign says you must wear a mask, I put the mask on. As soon as I get out of the store, if I am not surrounded by people, I take it off. I'm outside, I'm in the open air. I feel as if I don't need it. If I'm surrounded by people and we are within the 6 feet, I keep it on. I never drive with it because I'm in my own vehicle. Especially in these hot summer temperatures, I'm generally running the air conditioning anyway, so it's all running through a filter. I guarantee you in no way, shape, or form do I feel my freedom trampled upon. I just don't understand it. I'm continually fascinated by this argument. It absolutely fascinates me. I hope that all of you out there are safe. When I go grocery shopping, I have to wear a mask in the grocery store, so I do. I get in, I get my stuff, I get out, because I hate that mask. I can't stand it. It genuinely bothers me. But it's a small price to pay. It is a very small price to pay for my general safety and those of the people around me. And some of the anti-mask people will say, well, the virus only kills X point something % of people who get it. Okay. Do you want that point something % to be you? I mean, these are not difficult arguments. The simplicity of these arguments absolutely fascinates me. I imagine I run the risk of boring the heck out of you if we continue to have this same discussion week after week after week. But it just, I can't even. I'm not sure what to say. I guess maybe I shouldn't even keep talking about it because it just is a fascinating argument. It's just a little face covering. That's all it is. Nobody's asking you to wear a biohazard suit. It's just a little face covering. That's all. And you don't need to wear it 24/7. You don't have to wear it in the comfort of your own home. You do not need to wear it in your own vehicle when you're driving, just if you want to enter a store. And it would seem to me that if you are part of one of these groups that is so damned desperate to reopen, to quote unquote, reopen small businesses, well, if that small business is asking you to wear a mask when you're in it, and then you're going to have a fit when you're inside about wearing it, then you weren't all too concerned about opening that business, then were you? Do you want the business open or don't you? Or do you just want something to complain about? Because eventually you're going to run out. As I see it, you're just going to run out at some point. You can't complain about everything. Fox News can only give you so many things in a day to scream about. Of all the things that the left and right can argue with each other about, I should think a mask would be one of the last things. I don't understand it. I may never understand it. It appears nobody is going to ring in. We're at 8:15. We've been with you for 3 hours and 15 minutes. I will thank every single individual, regardless of wherever you have taken in the program this week. I thank you all, every single one of you, whether you agree, disagree, love the program, hate the program, whatever point of view you come from. I thank you tremendously, tremendously for being here. You are valued. Your opinion is valued. I can't thank you enough. You mean the world to me. I love doing this program. I think it's important. I think we're making I don't think I am important, but I think the program is important. I enjoy doing it. I am thrilled that we are here. I'm thrilled that we are part of the Hot101.net family. Whenever you need a break, go to hot101.net, take in the music, listen to the other DJs, take in the other shows. It is a brilliant place to give your ears a holiday. Take in the music, take in the other shows, be part of Hot 101. It's fantastic. You can get Hot 101 at the main website, hot101.net. You can listen on the app. If you have Apple devices, you can get the hot101.net at the Apple App Store. If you have an Android device, you can get the hot101.net app at the Google Play Store. If you don't have the apps yet, you can also listen to hot101.net through the TuneIn radio app. Wherever you have taken us in on Facebook this week, we will be back there next week with our show for the 19 and 7 is 26 for June 26. Do not have the guests lined up as of yet, but we will give you a announcement during the week to let you know who will be joining us. We thank you very, very much for being with us. I'm so absolutely thrilled to be here. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week. Until then, please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Please stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you next week. For everyone here at the Kennedy Effect, for April Riddick, DJ Lexus, DJ Earl, to the Hot101.net family, thank you for being here. Stay with Hot 101 for all of your music and all the great shows there. And I'm thrilled to be part of the family. We'll see you next week from the Kennedy Effect. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Stay safe. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.